stand, please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So good evening and welcome to the Sanborn Regional School District deliberative session. My name is Robert Desmelik. I'm moderator. I'm going to give a quick introduction to the people here that will be taking part in the proceedings tonight, but the most important people here are you, the voters. So let me start off first. Phyllis Kennedy, our district clerk, is on the far side there. Matt Decker, counsel to the school district. Marie Mundy, the business administrator for the school district. Dr. Robert Dawson, our interim superintendent. And then on to the school board, Dawn Dutton, chairman of the school board. Rick Edelman, vice chairman. Mike Capatillo, school board member. Jeremiah Nault, school board member. Heather Ingram, school board member. James Nasselbeck, school board member. And then we're on to the budget committee. Dr. Pamela Brown, budget committee chair. Brooks Clark, budget committee vice chair. James Doggett, budget committee. Shane Queenie, budget committee. Catherine Balukas, budget committee. And Reynold DiFilippo, budget committee. There are two individuals, one from each committee, who were unable to participate tonight. Dr. Beckett from the budget committee and Kenneth Hamilton from the school board. But nonetheless, I would like to at least mention them because they've done a lot of hard work with the rest of the boards and the committee to get us to this point where we are tonight. So let's take a second. I'm like, also, let me just give thanks. We have the supervisors of the checklist, both in Kingston. From Newton, the board as a whole is Ellen McCullough, Marcella Vincent, and Susan Peterson. In the town of Kingston, it's Claudine Diaz, Stacy Dion, and Marissa Federico. So what are we here for tonight? We're here to do several things. First and foremost, we are going to discuss and potentially amend the articles which will appear on the ballot for voting at the polls on Tuesday, March 10th. So we will discuss, amend if the voters desire to do so, and then the articles as amended or as presented will go on to the ballot. We will try to move through the warrant fairly quickly, so I may use a bit of informality to keep things going. There are a couple things that are important for us to do. One is that if you have a question or comment or proposed amendment or something like that, and you would like to speak, please use the microphone. And we'll kind of go one by one, so that way one person's talking at a time. And when you're at the microphone, please identify and state your name, because not everyone's here. There may be someone watching the video afterwards, and it's much easier for them if they can kind of keep track of what's going on. In addition, I think probably pretty much everyone out here is a resident. If you're a resident and you checked in, you're going to have one of these, and you're also going to have one of these sheets of paper. If you're not a resident, but you're present, obviously you can't vote. But in general, it's up to the voters to decide whether or not they want to hear from someone who is not a voter. And in general, we have situations where there are people that work in the school district who might like to speak, in particular some of our administrators. And so I am going to ask you a sort of a preliminary question. I'd like to ask you if you'd like to authorize non-resident employees of the school district to address the meeting this evening. That's your choice, but all in favor? Anyone opposed? So the ayes carry. And that is a decision that is solely with the voters. So in other words, you can change that if you decided to in the future. But this is your meeting, and so it's important to know that your votes are what counts and your input is what's important. So going on, let's put a sort of important fact in front of us, which is that the second session of this voting occurs on Tuesday, March 10th. The Kingston voters will be voting here at the Sanborn Regional High School. 17 Danville Road. Newton voters will be voting at the fire station in Newton, which is at 8D Merrimack Road. In both towns, the polls are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. In addition, and just as a reminder, in response to a new state law, both towns, as a matter of fact, every town in the state, will now have a ballot marking machine set up for voters at town and school elections. So if you have a disability that limits your sight or otherwise need to use such a machine to assist you in voting or preparing the ballot, they will be available at the polling place, and you should just simply ask an election official there, probably the ballot clerk, to kind of direct you to that machine. And then a final thought I always ask is hopefully, well, the weather will cooperate with us, and that hopefully we'll have a good day on March the 10th, and it won't be snowing. So on to the warrant. To the inhabitants of the Sanborn Regional School District in the towns of Kingston and Newton qualified to vote in district affairs. This is the first session of the annual meeting, the deliberative session. You are hereby notified to meet at Sanborn Regional High School Auditorium at 17 Danville Road in Kingston, New Hampshire on Wednesday, the 4th day of February at 2026 at 7 p.m. This session shall consist of explanation, discussion, and debate of each of the following warrant articles, except for Article 1. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. Warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for a final vote on the main motion as amended. And C, no warrant article shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article. And then this again, you're going to get the reminder twice here. The second session of the annual meeting, voting on these articles will be conducted by official ballot to be held in conjunction with town meeting vote in each town on Tuesday, the 10th day of March, 2026. Kingston voters, voting will be conducted at the Sanborn Regional High School, located at 17 Danville Road. That's where we are. The polls will open at 8 a.m. and will remain open until 8 p.m. Newton voters, voting will be conducted at the Newton Safety Complex, located at 8 Merrimack Road. Polls will be open at 8 a.m. and will remain open until 8 p.m. So Article 1, we're not going to discuss it here, but it is just the election of the officers, which I know a candidates night in our town. I would encourage people to learn about the candidates and be ready for that on the ballot, of course, on Election Day. Article 2, titled General Acceptance of Reports. Shall the reports of school district agents, auditors, committees, or officers chosen be accepted and placed on file? I'm going to open up the floor for a very brief, if there's any question on this. I think we had a question once in the past, but in general, this is a kind of perfunctory article that goes on every ballot. Do we have any discussion or questions related to this article? Seeing none, Article 2 will go on to the ballot as presented. Article 3, the operating budget. The average cost per, and I'm going to start off by reading a section which is required by a newly passed state law. So this wording of the following sentence and a half or so is as required by the state. The average cost per pupil for the preceding year as calculated in accordance with RSA 189:75 1A is $27,191.73. The ELA proficiency is 56%, the math proficiency 44%, and the science proficiency 34%. And then the remainder of the article. Shall the Sanborn Regional School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth in the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote at the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $41,028,910. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $42,493,451, the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Sanborn Regional School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. And it's noted that this warrant article does not include appropriations in any other warrant article. It was recommended by the Budget Committee in favor 4, opposed 3. It was recommended by the Sanborn Regional School Board in favor 6 and opposed 0. It has an operating budget estimated tax impact of 91 cents per thousand for the town of Newton, for the town of Kingston, excuse me. For the town of Newton, 99 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. The default budget estimated tax impact for the town of Kingston is $1.47 per thousand of assessed value. In Newton, it is $1.64 per thousand of assessed value. So I'm going to open up with discussion first with our school board. I think has a presentation on that topic.
Mr. Patillo is going to start.
Yep. Mr. Patillo.
Thank you. Oh, I can do this. Thank you. First of all, thank you all for coming tonight. We're just going to go through, I'm imagining based on the turnout that there's going to be a lively discussion about this article. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the slides, and I'll save time for you all to speak as you wish on the subject. And I'll make time, obviously, for us to answer as best we can any questions that you have. So the first slide is guiding principles. How do we develop a budget, and what do we think the budget is supposed to do? This is critical. From our perspective, and when I say our, I mean the school board specifically, but also with input, obviously, from the Budget Committee, administration, and the entire many people whose hard work has gone into this budget. The first is to maximize the future for all of our children, right? Schools are here to educate children, but we don't really believe that it's just children that benefit from the school budget. We believe that an entire community benefits from educated children. So, as I like to say, a rising tide lifts all ships. Therefore, maximizing the future for all children and thus the community as well. Second, to support and retain the best possible educators. You'll see later on in this presentation that a teacher contract was passed a few years ago, and there has been a steady and notable increase in student outcomes since we've been able to retain good teachers and attract good teachers to the district. And a budget, of course, helps us to continue to do just that. And finally, we are, despite the fact that we're the school board and we're concerned primarily with the education and the thriving of the children in the community, we're not, of course, ignorant or blind to the fact that all of this budget is coming from your tax dollars. So reasonable taxes and improved property values are also a prime part of the equation for us, especially after most recent reassessments in Kingston and Newton have only exacerbated issues of the feeling of financial burden on so many of us, especially with inflation and other factors. So, but we do believe that at the center of these three things, we will find positive outcomes, not only for the students, but also for the community at large. Thank you. So the real question now, before we get into how we arrive at the default budget, we just want to understand what a default budget is and how it compares to our proposed budget. So if you look at this slide, you'll see that the current year budget, the budget that we are operating with right now, is $40,527,559. The default, that was the number that our moderator said that if the article doesn't pass, will be the budget that's adopted, is $42,493,451. The school budget that we have proposed is $41 million, at the recommendation of the Budget Committee, $41,028,910. So the difference between the default and the proposed is $1,464,541. So this is a significantly reduced proposed budget from the default, which is not something that, as you'll see on a later slide, our communities are necessarily used to. But we're proud of this, that in cooperation with the Budget Committee and the administration, we've been able to arrive at a proposed budget that's so significantly lower than what the default would be. So how do you arrive at a default budget? You take the current year budget, which in this case for us is the fiscal year 26, and you have to add any contractual obligations that we're on the hook for the future. That would be teacher, para, and principals contracts, notably health insurance, which has gone up close to 20% since last year. And of course, out-of-district placements for special ed, and those are known at the time. And then we have to subtract one-time expenditures, which we don't factor into the future because it was only one time. And then we subtract any positions that have been eliminated, in this case, 6. Okay. Continuing concretely for this year, given that the FY26 budget was $40,527,559, the employees and benefits and contractual obligations total $1,239,476. Add in special ed, $599,260, plus transportation, SST, Primex, our insurance, and other costs there, $127,158. Therefore, the total adjustments from this year's budget that result in the amount of the default is $1,965,893. So that's how we get to the default. If we look at this slide now, the default versus the proposed, I mentioned this before. If you look from 2022 until now, you'd see that the proposed budget was only marginally below the default budget. Maximally $53,000 one year in 2023. That was the difference. Not much of a choice. But again, due to the hard work of many people involved in diligent efforts, a 5-year trend that was averaging at only $21,000 difference in what was being proposed versus what you were going to be stuck with. Now you're proposed with almost $1.5 million less. That's a 3.44% difference in the proposed. So this is exciting. Let's move on. Equally exciting as far as I'm concerned, I know many of us up here are excited by this, that this budget year over year is, I would say, well under the year over year rate of inflation. So if you look in the past, we have been consistently under the rate of inflation for any given year. The rate of increase in our budget has not been equal to inflation. It's been relatively less in the past. And this year is no different. So if you just go to the bottom line there, the year over year budget change. So the increase from last year's budget to this year's is a 1.24% increase. That's a small increase, generally speaking. As far as we can tell, the year over year inflation rate currently is 2.7%. So we're still staying under the rate of inflation. And if you look at the trend over the past, 6 years, the year over year inflation rate cumulatively has been 26.95%, while the school budget has remained under that at 16.33. So I'm going to now turn it back to Dr. Dawson to talk about what factors go into the actual budget. What considerations does the superintendent and the administration consider when building the budget?
Thank you, Micah. First, I want to give a quick shout out to our team from teachers on up that helped build this budget. This isn't a budget that was built entirely by the administration initially. It was built from the classrooms all the way up to those of us at the district office. So I wanted to give a thank you to those folks tonight. Several factors are impacting budgets statewide. We're not the only ones that are dealing with these particular challenges. The first, there is a general decline in the number of students statewide over the last decade or so, and we are feeling the effects of that. We're also feeling the direct effects of the Fremont students transferring out of our school district and over to Pinkerton and Epping primarily. So there is a declining enrollment that we're dealing with, and we certainly recognize that as we're looking at the size of our budget, the staffing, and so forth across the board. As was mentioned earlier, one of the really driving factors of the budget as a whole in that Venn diagram, the 3 bubbles, was the incredible importance of maintaining a high quality staff. The real miracle that happens in any school district does not happen in 51 Church Street where my office is. It happens in the individual classroom between the teacher and their students. And if we cannot maintain high quality teachers in the district, it will absolutely be the students that feel the consequences of that. And so we have worked very hard, this board and the teachers, in the contracts and being able to give them significant improvements in their raises and maintaining the quality of life for our teaching staff through small things like, can they get pencils when they need them? And you'd be astounded at the impact if you have enough whiteboard markers in a high school. If you don't run out of those, teachers are very, very happy if they can have all the whiteboard markers they want, and they need, not they want. But maintaining staff and doing those sorts of things is incredibly important. The board, the administration, the curriculum director, and so forth for the district have worked to put together and really work on raising our academic achievement. You'll see in a moment how our test scores have started to rise. We have a new program in place 4 or 5 years ago in English language arts. Another one came online a year or so after that in mathematics across the board. That's had a significant impact on student learning, and our test scores are rising, and you'll see that momentarily. The board recently approved a new science program that's in line with that same kind of effort to get a real hands-on, project-based experiment, making helmets and things like that for students in the area of science, so we can improve student learning, which is, of course, more important than any test score, but we really want to help our students achieve academically so we can maximize their future, which, of course, is the number one pillar in that series of bubbles. We really want to service our kids. We have, as you came in today, you walked through some of our new LED lighting that is literally being installed right now in this building. And the board in particular has worked very, very hard, and our facilities director to look at long-term facilities and maintenance needs in the schools and to maintain our facility. We have, if you've watched the board meetings, we have some heating, ventilating stuff going on here in this building, the siding of the building. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And so there are some maintenance and facilities needs, but what we really want to do is make sure that we maintain our facility and our building in a way where we still see the comments. And I was the athletic director for the last 5 years, and the number of times teams would come into that gym for a basketball game from their schools and literally just stop and freeze at the facility we have. This community should be extremely proud of the facility we had, and we want to give a shout out also to our custodial crew for the work that they do in all of our buildings to do a tremendous job of maintaining this facility as well. It's a beautiful building that our kids in the middle and high school get to come to every day. We also need to recognize and have recognized the impact of continually rising special ed costs. We have an increased number of students that we really need and have a moral requirement and a legal requirement to have them educated outside the district. We're working hard to keep as many kids here as we can. Those can be very expensive, those out-of-district placements, and overall special ed costs are rising for everyone statewide. We hear this comment continuously as I talk to other superintendents. And as I think we all know, health insurance costs are rising dramatically. We had a 19.8% hit on our health insurance cost year on year this year alone from our healthcare providers. So, and that's for our teaching staff and our paraprofessional staff. 19.8 is a lot. I think that was roughly $600,000 in our budget rise that we had this year. So these are the things that we're working with to try to build the budget across the board as we look, like I said, from teachers all the way I should say, we all really are working together to the board and the budget committee as we put the budget together. The enrollment trends, as you can see here, and I didn't go back earlier than 2025, but what we're going to see here in the district, or at least we anticipate seeing in the district, is the continued decrease in the enrollment that we have. Now that there's two lines that you're going to see here. There's an outside organization called NESDEC that does work and sends us a report every year on what they believe to be our enrollment trends. And we did work at the administrative level to try to anticipate what our enrollment trends are going to be ourselves based on our numbers and the transition of students and how many third graders end up being fourth graders the next year and so forth. A big part of the reason that the NESDEC line, which is the top line, the orange line, is a little bit higher, if you look at the really dig down right into the numbers, is that they are much more bullish on our elementary grade. They think that we're going to have 92 kindergartners next year. I think we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 65 right now. And 100 in 2 years. So I'm not sure that's actually going to be the pans out. It's very hard to predict your elementary kids as opposed to the older students. So we are seeing enrollment as a decline, and the budget is reflective of that in the sense of it is declining based on our fixed costs that we, need to have, but we know that enrollment is down and we have to make some adjustments based on that. The good news, of course, is that our test scores are up. And I know this can be a little tricky to see. I've tried to make it a little clearer. The slide we used a couple of weeks ago wasn't the best. This one, I think, is a little more clear. The green is our science scores. You can see those jump 3% or 3% rise in the number of students that tested proficient in the last year as opposed to the year before. The orange is our math scores, and you can just see that line moving up and up and up over the last 5 years, which is good news for us. And our English language arts scores over the last 4 years have also been rising. And those are reflective of a lot of the hard work that the teaching staff is doing across the district. These are district level scores. We break them down to grade by grade. And we actually had one grade this year that scored a 90% proficient in, I believe it was English language arts, math. Thank you. I'm looking up at the top row. She knows those better than I do, Mr. Rochers. And we had one group was a 90% proficient. That's basically a perfect score. That's you can't really get better than 90%. So this is reflective of the work that's happening in the classrooms. And we're very, very keen to keep that kind of hard work going on and support our teachers to provide excellence to our students.
Before we get to the next, sorry. Before we get to the next slide, where were we on that? You abandoned me. I do want to mention one more time what Dr. Dawson has said, but add an addendum to this. Enrollment is down. It's trending down. It's going to be down if we do nothing. If we sit back and let it be down, that's what will happen. But if we actively market our school, if we talk about rising scores, if we talk about winning sports teams and talk about facilities that are some of the best around, it doesn't have to stay that way. And that's part of what our goal here is to do, is to maintain the forward trajectory that we have. We think this budget does that. It doesn't take a step backward, and it doesn't give up in the face of declining enrollment trends, which aren't necessarily real yet. They're only real if we allow them to be real. And we're optimistic that we can do something about it. So we move on to long-term facilities needs. We do have some of the best facilities around, and we want to keep them that way. They are getting a little bit on in years, however. So we do have aging infrastructure district-wide. We have active projects going on for the middle and high school roofing and siding. We've been talking about rooftop heating and cooling units every other week in the finance and facilities subcommittee meetings. This budget actually factors in an increase of 20% for funds to be allocated in this area, because we know that our buildings and our facilities are assets. And in order to maintain their value and in order to maintain an attractive community to draw students in, we need to maintain the facilities as well. So this is almost slide 16 now is almost shocking to look at, given the fact that it's 1.4 million plus under the default, but it actually does include all of, some positional adjustments. It fully funds special ed. It funds the second year of the teacher contract, which we, I think is safe to say is at least in part, but very likely in large part attributable to rising scores, in addition to the investment in various curricula in ELA and math. And it accounts for a gargantuan increase in health insurance. So given all that it accounts for, we're pretty happy with it. If we look on slide 17 now, we have the estimated tax impact. Well, the current millage rate in Newton is $13.29 per thousand. This would impact that at a rate of 99 cents per thousand. And that would result in an additional $495 on a $500,000 home. In Kingston, where the mill rate is $11.95 per thousand, the impact would be 91 cents per thousand, resulting in $455 increase on a $500,000 home. I've asked people for years why the rate is, the impact is different across the towns. I can't, it's very complex. I can't understand it, but I trust that there are smart people who do. And that's it for us. Thank you.
So we're now open for discussion on the operating budget with comments, questions, proposed amendments. Who would like to speak to it? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Lorraine Massioli. I live in Kingston, New Hampshire. I would like to ask if the Budget Committee could speak on why such a split decision of a 4-3 that does not say unanimously to me that this was an easy budget for you to pass. And I'd very much like to hear how you voted and why you voted the way you voted so that I could better understand the numbers before us, before I would like to possibly propose an amendment.
Thank you. I'll give the opportunity to the board or the board members to respond.
Sure, I'll start. Well, we're looking at large unexpended balances every year of $1 million or more. And some on the Budget Committee felt that, that they would like to have the unexpended balances that have tended to be used for facilities improvements placed on warrant articles for the town to decide on and not placed in the operating budget. So by shifting that amount that's used for facilities onto warrant articles, this would reduce the operating budget proposed even more. And that was one thought that we discussed. I personally, as a member of the Budget Committee, am concerned about declining enrollment and the fact that within a few years we'll have 43% excess capacity in our facilities. And I feel that we need to have a facilities use plan outlined before the taxpayers pour additional funds into our buildings. We may want to lease out some of the buildings. We may want to reorganize our grades into different facilities. So that is why I'd like to see some of the funds placed on specific warrant articles for facilities with a facilities use plan that is well-defined for the voters, rather than saying, let's just keep an unexpended balance available and not go into details about what our long-term plans are for the facilities.
Any other comments from board members or committee members, Budget Committee members?
I might just like to echo that. In addition to that, though, I came into this thinking about trying to stay level budgeted from last year, seeing the large increase in health insurance. That was one of the driving factors for me to change my decision to increase my proposed budget for the school district. That's pretty much all I have.
In all my years of working with this budget, we have never had the kind of unexpended balance at the end of the year that we had in the books that just closed. They had almost $4 million that hadn't been expended. Like my colleague beside me, I would have liked to have kept it at a perfectly zero increase budget. And that's why I voted against this $500,000 increase. Given my druthers between the proposed budget and the default budget, needless to say, the proposed budget is a lot closer to the number that I would prefer to see than is the default budget.
From my perspective, as was just mentioned, between the default budget and the proposed budget, we were able to take a look at that, see the differences, and now, of course, we want to keep everything running as smoothly as possible, but we also don't want to overly burden the people of this town with an extra $5 million from Fremont over the next few years as they phase out. We need to accurately look at how we're spending that money, where it's going to for longer term projects. Now, all of us are pretty much in agreement of the initial proposed budget by the school board was still way too high. So even though you see the 4-3 split, it's not like one of us or three of us wanted the budget to now be 43 or 44 million. We all were around the same number. It's just how we wanted to allocate that either as part of the budget itself or as larger warrant articles.
From my standpoint, it was one of the reasons I voted in favor of it. Originally, I had actually voted against it because I felt like maybe it could have been a little higher. I would have, as a parent, I was looking for possibly a little higher, but I realized to come to an agreement, that was probably our best number to kind of meet in the middle. Factors for me were I didn't feel confident in warrant articles for things like maintenance and items. Being a Newton resident, I've seen them fail in Newton, and I didn't feel confident. So personally, I preferred the higher budget, knowing that we had that money to use, than relying on a warrant article.
I voted in favor of it for pretty much the same reasons as Kathleen and Shane had mentioned. As a taxpayer and a parent, kids in all three schools, it's hard to see $43 million go where the students aren't there. That's all I got.
Thank you. So I hope that's helpful information. Additional comments or questions?
I have a question. I know that question was directed to the BudCom. Would you accept a comment from me on that same question? Is that okay?
Sure.
I'm sorry, 1 minute. I just wanted to mention that the idea of the warrant article with this budget, you see the potential, the tax impact for each town. That's before unexpended fund balances get returned to taxpayers. So one of the things that members of the budget committee are mentioning about these big balances at the end of the year, those are important for two reasons. One, if the school does not budget and with some buffer in there, and for anybody who runs a business or runs a home budget, it's very, very difficult to live paycheck to paycheck, dollar to dollar, because you don't know when your boiler is going to go. If we live like that, we're not going to be able to educate kids effectively. So in any smart budget, there has to be some kind of buffer built in. That buffer, however, when we operate intelligently all year long and there's money left over, that money goes back to the taxpayers. I don't know about $4 million, but I know that, we're currently trending towards giving something to the order of $2 million back to taxpayers after this current budget cycle, which would help to stabilize the tax rate and offset the increases that you see in this tax impact. It's a complicated formula, and I swear to you, I will go to the ends of the earth to explain it and figure it out, because I really don't know how to explain it. But I know that our business administrator for years used to tell me, oh, the money we give back to taxpayers stabilizes the tax rate, and they don't feel it as much because it compensates for the tax increase of the next budget. So, and the thing is, would I love it for what Mr. Doggett said? Would I love it to be the case that we could spend exactly what we're going to spend and not take that money and then give it back? Yes, but you can't run a school district like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Crystal Brown from Newton, and I just have a question. It was mentioned there's the budget and then maybe an idea of doing a smaller budget with warrant articles. But at this point, tell me if I misunderstand, the warrant articles, that ship sailed? So we couldn't say lower it and put a warrant article in and keep, right?
I'll take that question.
Okay.
We cannot create a new warrant article in this meeting. Would have to be on the warrant, and then we could amend it, but we cannot make a new one.
Sorry, could I make a clarifying statement?
Hang on 1 second there, Dan. Yes,
So I know that warrant articles were brought up many times, and I have stated this publicly at the board meetings. So if you have a warrant article for, say, a heating system or a roof or anything like that, and it is defeated at the polls, the school cannot do that repair for that entire fiscal year because the voters have said no. That's how we ended up with the middle school that is no longer active as part of our district. So we try to be very, very careful that we take the facilities and try to budget it appropriately. That's why we have a plan that over the last couple of years has been really effectively worked on. But warrant articles can be really, really dangerous because if the voters say no, we cannot fix it. And if we cannot fix a heating system or we cannot fix a roof, we cannot have kids in the building and we cannot educate them in a way that we are required to by law. So that's my clarifying note.
Thank you.
I have one more. Thank you.
We'll get to you guys.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Thanks for your patience. So Jeremiah Nault, I am the chairman of the Facilities and Finance Committee. One of the other challenges to doing that is if we don't want to get the maximum amount out of our facilities and our finances, then we can start repairing things way earlier than they need it. Excuse me. Right now, what we do is we work a full life cycle with our facilities manager and their team to get the maximum life out of all of our facilities, all of our equipment. And we do that by not having to rely on warrant articles. I love the idea of it. To be very honest with you, I love that idea. In practicality, it just doesn't work though, because when a roof goes mid-year, we don't have time to wait for a warrant article to then pay for that roof that is pouring water over our kids. So we have to be ready for those things because they happen like that. The only way to prevent that would be to repair a 20-year roof at 18 years and then just call it. And we don't want to do that. We want to bring things to the max life, excuse me, because that saves money in our budget and that makes better financial decisions for our taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Dan Guide, Newton. I have a list, but I'll not do that now. I do have a specific question, debt on page 82. What debt are you guys incurring that's coming up? Because I don't remember hearing about anything, but I could be wrong. 154,000?
That's the lease agreement that we went into with the Siemens LED in the building envelope.
How many years is that for?
20? 20.
Was that on a ballot?
No, it was
No.
in a board meeting.
What's that?
It was approved by the board.
Okay.
So what was stated when the board voted for it was that the amount of money that would be spent each year would be offset by the savings from the electric bill. And somebody else want to take this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is part of the agreement with Siemens was that instead of spending the money that we already spent on electric to Unitil or whomever, we give it to them. And there's a guarantee that the project will pay for itself it's built into the contract that it's revenue positive for us. It doesn't actually cost us anything because it's not like we're not spending money on energy. We're just the money we would have given to Unitil, we're giving to them.
Okay.
Right. So the
So it
amount
doesn't impact, there's no impact to.
And we're making a capital improvement on our facility, on our asset by doing this. So no money to Unitil. That money then goes into our facility upgrade that is then our asset that is now appreciated.
Sure.
Go ahead.
LED, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We're having some mic issues.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, it's the building envelope and all three buildings, four buildings, as well as LED lighting, right? So that's where we're getting the return from.
Okay.
Forget the return of just, the monetary return. the LED lighting has had an immediate impact on the educational value of the children in the schools. I mean, if anybody who's been in any of our schools, the teachers hang sheets and curtains and other things to diffuse the light to sort of make it a better learning environment. Now they have switches that turn off automatically. They can dim the rooms. So there was a lot of other benefits that came with that project.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's important to know that we discussed as a board whether or not this should be, whether it would be appropriate to bring it to voters to do this. But due to the fact that the money that we were using to engage in the contract with them was money that we could not avoid paying anyway, and it was already built into the budget, it's simply a reallocation of funds.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ian McGregor, Newton. I just had a question, comment Mr. Doggett made. I was using the report from tonight, and it has the last closeout was FY 2025, obviously, because we're not done with 2026 yet, right? Because that would be this current fiscal. And in the book, it has budgeted 40 million, and then it has actual 38. So when I did the math, it was 1,453,000. That was the difference between the budget and the actuals. I didn't know if the numbers in the book were different because he had a $4 million number. I didn't know where that difference was.
No, where he is, and I don't know what he's.
Okay.
Would anyone like to address that question?
Very well. So the unexpended balance was used last year, and some of it went to, for example, the health insurance premium increases. So the net amount was not close to 4 million. Some of it was used, significant amount.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mike Pavero, Town of Newton. You brought up the old middle school a few minutes ago. I have a question specifically to that middle school. First, is that a positive cash flow to this school district? And two, are we responsible for the maintenance and upkeep for that? Or that the independent schools, the two schools that are in there, are they responsible for the upkeep? Most importantly, is it a positive cash flow for this school district?
Yeah, so to the first part of that is it is a positive cash flow. The funds are used for most of the technology of the entire district, laptops, Chromebooks. So it pays for itself. And then the buildings, when I joined the board, because I toured them, were deplorable. And both parties that are in there have dumped in millions of dollars of improvements to the facilities, which we own. They're our assets. And they are required for maintenance costs. And we share larger maintenance costs with them as
Okay. Where are those numbers that we can see? The books sitting here don't show those. They're not broken down enough to show those costs.
Yeah.
Are they somewhere? I don't need to see them now.
Yeah.
Are they somewhere that we can review them at a later date?
Yeah, I mean, so the answer is yes. If you want to, my name's Rick Edelman. So if you want to send me an email, I'll be happy to get you specific information. We talk about that in our finance and facilities meeting every other week, every bi-weekly. We talk about the facilities use revolving fund, which is funded by the rental income that comes in. But if you have specific questions, send them to me and I'd be happy to help.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Peter Bakey, Kingston, New Hampshire. Unfortunately, I know a few of you on the board, on the budget committee, school board, but not the privilege of knowing all of you. Just by a show of hands so we can know who we're talking to. Anybody here own their own business on the board? That's 3. That's good. Oh, 4? Own the business? Okay. Financial backgrounds? Okay, perfect. Great. First, I'd like to ask is one of your displays you showed tonight was a 2022 budget that you showed on your slide show. 35,525,942. That's what you showed us in the audience tonight. That was in 2022. I question that as in 2019, where the school district had 1,583 kids in it, the budget was only $300,000 more at $35,887,933. So that's only $300,000 difference. Here we are now, fast forward to 2025. We have 1,148 kids in class, 42,493,451. The numbers to me just don't add up. I have a business for 24 years. I've been pretty successful at running a small business. Obviously, our numbers aren't the same. But I guess I would like to know from the committee, the last 5 years, what has been the fund balance? Mistakenly now, I think it's about 5 million, if I'm not mistaken. Fund balance?
Fund balance? How do you mean by
The fund balance that the school is sitting on money. It's a fund balance?
Well,
Do you not call it that?
Any of the money that we are quote unquote sitting on at the end of the year is required by law with.
Okay.
Was it 2%? 2.5% to be returned to taxpayers.
So I'm just curious what the balances of that budget is. You must have a budget. You must have a balance to that number. How much money is left in the budget that was not returned to the town?
Marie has that, right?
Everything
That's
is.
the 2.5% if we choose to return.
Everything's returned to the.
So I'll,
The law. We
just
have
to clarify,
Okay.
so every year we have the unexpended fund balance.
Yeah, correct.
As a board, every board has the ability to withhold 2.5%.
Okay, I understand.
The following year, that 2.5% is then returned to the taxpayers. And then on that next unexpended fund balance, we can, again, choose to hold that 2.5%. So ultimately, we haven't held any of it longer than the term that we've been allowed to legally hold it for. We've returned all of it. We haven't had to dip into that 2.5% ever. So ultimately, we return all of the unexpended funds to the taxpayer.
So again, what's the balance in that account?
There's $670,271 in the contingency, 2.5%.
And last year, I think somebody said you gave back 2 million to the town of Kingston?
No, I said that not to the town of Kingston. I would be speaking about both students.
Both towns.
Towns collectively.
Okay.
But that this year, if the budgeting is tracking, Marie, correct me. If the budget tracks the way it's looking like it's tracking now, there would be that amount left, which means that if the board chose, let's just call it 2 million. If the board chose to retain 2.5% of that, is that right? 2.5%. The board could elect to do that, hold it for a year, return that as well, but the vast majority of that would go back to the taxpayers by law.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to clarify that balance you have in that account is $673,000. Is that what you're telling me?
Currently, yeah.
Thank you. We're good now.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you said 673. It's, I believe I had to find the number, but I believe it's 670, 271.
And there's a clock on that, right? To Dawn's point, there's a clock on that. And if we don't use it for what is deemed a contingency, right?
Let's
An emergency, like a real,
emergency that as long as I've been on the board, we've never used it.
right? Something so severe that it would be like, whoa, we need to dip it. Otherwise it just goes back.
Thank you for your time.
Yep. I would like to comment too, just on the fact that, you look at 1,500 kids and you see a budget. You look at 1,100 kids, you see a budget. Interestingly, unlike in many businesses, the kids aren't the primary driver of the cost, right?
That would bring me my next question, but I was
Okay.
going to wait till a little bit later on.
Yeah, but we could address it now since you did mention it. It is the idea that, these buildings, they don't shrink when the enrollment shrinks.
Okay, I agree with that. It's all cost. I understand that 100%. Again, being a business person. So my question to the board would be, if we were to do the research to the math back in 2019 to where we are today, what has changed between administration then and employees then and what we have today? Are they the same or have they gone up? As far as administration, teachers, aides, support staff?
The numbers are markedly, no, decreased.
Oh, they've decreased
We have been decreasing the amount of staff.
since 2019.
Well, I don't know about 2019, at least since I've been on the board 3 years, there has been continual efforts hopefully through retirements and other, people leaving for other jobs, not filling positions. There has been continual reductions being made to try and match the number of students that we have.
And this budget has reductions in it as well.
It does.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Other questions or comments?
Hi, Cheryl Gannon from Kingston. Up front, I want to just say I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't get handouts of the slideshow. And I was here for the public hearing and noticed that there were a number of slides that were taken out for this presentation, and one would have easily answered that question that the previous speaker asked about what was, the numbers aren't here in this presentation. So it's kind of hard for us to really gauge where these costs are coming from, where the reductions are. There's very few things here that really show us amounts of money. There's considerations for this and considerations for that, but there's no dollar amounts. So it kind of leaves me wondering how this number was arrived at. One of my questions is this proposed budget larger, the same, or lower than what the superintendent and the school board originally proposed?
It's,
Go ahead.
I mean, to answer the question, it's lower than what the superintendent had originally proposed.
And to be clear, the school board does not propose budgets. We set the
The
priorities.
administration proposes a budget to the school board?
No,
No.
the administration proposes a budget to the budget committee.
The
The
budget
budget
committee, budget committee then sends it to the school board.
Sends it to the school board.
So is this one
It is-
higher or lower than the school boards? It's lower than what the school board had recommended?
No.
We don't
that's-
recommend anything from
So-
a budget standpoint.
The superintendent and the administration puts forth a budget at a meeting and is then sent to the budget committee. The budget committee deliberates. They then vote on a budget and they send it to the school board for review. To answer your question, the budget that is proposed now is lower than what the administration and the superintendent.
Okay, thank you.
You can see that if you look at the budget committee meetings on YouTube.
Is there, do you have any numbers of what items, like just highlights of what were like the highest cost items that were increased
You got a slide 9?
in the budget? And what decreases were?
Getting there. Slow.
Oh, well,
That's 9.
9's up.
okay. Are you looking for so 9 is the default budget. Okay. Now, the things that are in the default budget that make the default budget what it is are also factors in the proposed budget. They're unavoidable. So employees and employee benefits, special ed, SST transportation, and Primex, these things are factored into the budget. So that's a list right there, and with associated costs of some of the most, some of the changes from last year's budget. These are concrete changes that have to be made to last year's budget in these amounts.
And these are in the operating budget that's proposed here tonight?
They have to be because they're contractual obligations. Right. So whatever happens to the
That's,
default.
that's not clear from this slide
I
because this is
apologize.
default budget.
That's right. So if we continue to 12, Bob, the major factors in budgeting that Dr. Dawson explained, impact of special ed and health insurance is there, maintaining facilities and buildings.
So those were both
These are-
increases?
Well,
Those were added?
first of all, the impact of special ed and health insurance. Yeah, the health insurance, these are
All
control
right, yeah, we saw the 19% increase in
That's
health
right.
insurance, yeah.
and special
And,
ed also costs that have to be incurred.
and how much was that increased by?
Special ed increased 1 million.
A million?
1 million.
Wow. Do we have more?
54.9.
I'm not asking for names or anything like that.
Well,
But percentage wise, we usually say, approximately what percent of the population is special education? Is that
not even
increased?
Commenting on that.
Yeah.
That's
That's
illegal and probably immoral.
I'm not asking for names or anything like that. It's a percentage of the
Either way,
population?
either way, what we know, Bob, just answer this. How much does it cost? How much?
We've gotten that in the past.
Placement
In
cost.
fact, it's probably published somewhere in the,
Yeah,
state.
we have publicly put out there in a previous presentation that one of the big drivers of this is the number of students we have going in and out of district placements. Those can range from 120,000 to a student to, I've heard of districts carrying expenses up to $1 million a student. We're not presently at that. I don't want to put a number on in what our highest number is, but I can tell you it's a lot. And we have a legal requirement due to federal civil rights law to provide those students with a free and appropriate public education. They're very hard to predict. You could have a student move into the district. You could have a student, and they have an out of district placement. We have to take on a large percentage of that expense, and so forth. So that it's a very unpredictable item in the budget. But we do know that over the last several years, that number of kids that we have going in and out of district has increased significantly.
Going out of district, that's
Correct.
what the costs are. Okay, it's not
Yep.
the more special ed students have been identified in the district or are moving into the district. It's out of district placements. That's basically the driver of that increase.
Yep.
Okay.
And some of this is we're seeing still the impacts of COVID on certain students with deficits and so forth. And some of that is playing out in some of these budget numbers as well.
Okay. You talked about an increase in the budget for facilities maintenance. Do you have a figure on that? What are the things that we know right now that need to be repaired? And
Yeah, I believe it's around $248,000 in increased facilities maintenance. Some of that was to bring in line some expenses that we hadn't budgeted for previously, like inspecting our AEDs, inspecting our vehicles and things like that. So we added some of that. But as I mentioned earlier, we want to continue to maintain the facilities that we have as the highest level that we possibly can. So that particular piece of the budget was, I think, something in the neighborhood of a 20% increase, because, we're scrambling around all the time this week we've had the impact of just this last 2 weeks weather has cost us a significant amount of money in maintaining and, repairing propane lines and things like that you just can't mess with.
Yeah, items that you would normally see in any type of facility, like boiler repair and maintenance, an annual inspection, descaling. Those didn't exist when I joined the board. Fire suppression, inspection, no line item for that. So while Bob's saying it's a 20% increase, I would probably say it's also getting the budget in line with the expectations of maintaining 20-year-old facilities correctly. So we don't close them and bulldoze them.
is it coming pretty much aligned with the capital improvement plan? Or is it above or below? How's that lining up with the plans?
Facility maintenance expenses and capital improvements are two different items. We do have a capital improvement plan. If we had the money, I could spend $4 million tomorrow to get this building alone fixed the way it should be fixed. But obviously we don't have that money, and neither do the taxpayers of Newton and Kingston. So the capital improvement plan is, it's ABC rated, things that have to happen immediately and put off. But it is.
I don't know that I would call any of them improvements, though.
I can't hear you.
I don't know that I would call any of them improvements.
Yeah, that's true.
On that plan. We should change the name of the plan to the capital maintenance plan, because there aren't any true improvements in the list as far as I can tell. It's a long list.
Yeah, we're talking siding replacements, stairways failing, boilers, a number of items.
And we maintain multiple buildings, multiple towns, and we do it with a facilities team that is dedicated and has done that with 3% of our budget. So we maintain our entire facilities to date with 3% of our budget. So that is how fiscally responsible the finance and facilities and this board has been with the taxpayer funds. We're taxpayers here too. Every time there's an increase, we take it as well. So with 3% of our funds, yes, there is an ask this year for an increase because we have not had a line item that properly maintains, and we just have a facilities team that has done as much duct tape and paint and putting lipstick on a pig is what we call it in the military. And they've done a fantastic job, but we need a little bit of help. And we're trying look around this facility. This is nice because of the team that works hard.
I do appreciate that and agree that that should be included in the budget, because if we don't pay for it now, we're going to pay for it more later. Besides things being failing more, costs going up, and possible repercussions. If this fails, it's going to cause something else to fail. So I do appreciate that going into the budget, as opposed to putting on a warrant article and risking that not being funded. And those things, again, the cost will only go up. It will never
Yes,
go
ma'am.
down.
You just nailed it. You should run for the board.
No, thank you. That's why I pay taxes for you. Did you get a raise this year? No. I've been on the budget committee about 7 years, on and off. So these numbers, I know I've been through them before, and I appreciate seeing those numbers, how you came to those decisions. That's appreciated. And we'll ask again for next year if you could have a handout of the slideshow. It's helpful for us to be taking notes on that as you're speaking so that we can come up with intelligent questions and say, slide 3, I have a question on that.
Absolutely, ma'am. And I'm sorry about that. And we'll take that as a do better next time. Sorry about that.
And just one more question about staff turnover. I know that there, in recent years when we were trying to pass contracts, one of the big things was that we were lacking continuity because we were losing teachers because of local other districts that offered higher pay and better benefits, whatever. And I believe that the previous administration felt that we were up now pretty much where we should be to be competitive, to maintain our staff. And we definitely want to do that. That's so important to have that continuity of a team that's working for our students and that they're all on the same page. And if we keep losing them and having to retrain people, we pay them to be retrained. That's money going down the tubes if we cannot retain these teachers. And these teachers who work as a team and worked for the best outcomes for our students. So I'm wondering, are we at that competitive level now? Because I did read in the report that was presented by the superintendent search company that's helping us with the search, that there was mention of high staff turnover. So that seemed conflicting to me. So I was wondering if you could tell us where that's at now. Are we seeming to retain the teachers, and are we staying competitive with salaries?
I think a couple things. The first thing, in my opinion, speaking for myself, not the board, teachers leave for a number of reasons. For me, culture is the first reason they would leave. And I would bet that there's been a drastic improvement in culture. Pay is a motivator. Are we competitive? We are more competitive thanks to the people in this room and the towns of Kingston and Newton who passed our last teacher's contract. It actually gave more funds up front than it did on the back end, so we could attract and retain better quality teachers or just teachers in general. Because remember, we're trying to pull people from a profession that they're not going into anymore. And the other thing that I would like to say is teachers leave because of communities as well. Whether we're positive with them or negative with them, it has a drastic impact. So I would just challenge everybody to remember that. It's a very, very tough job. Not one that I would ever want to take on. So I would, again, like to thank everybody for passing that teacher's contract because it did make a difference.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
One thing on the staff turnover, it's in the report, the Zeal report, and one of the concerns about staff turnover, because we're sort of responding to a trend that we saw that reached back a number of years during an administration, where now, if we're going to inaugurate a new administration, we want to make sure that culture is top of mind. So
Yeah.
I don't think that our staff turnover in recent years since the contract has not been what it was.
But one last thing to add for transparency purposes, in upcoming board meetings, we will have full reports on turnover rates, and reasons why people are leaving, and we will share that with the community in an open forum.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Mary Sear from Kingston. Just a point of order first off. I don't know if it's my old lady ears, but I'm having a really difficult time hearing everybody. So I ask that you please lean into your microphone so that we can hear you in the back. Also, my old lady eyes are kind of failing. And I was looking for a list of the capital reserve or trust funds in this handout. Is it in this handout or am I missing it?
Yeah, I don't know.
If it is, would you let me know what page it is, please?
Marie can tell you.
I don't think it isn't.
We don't believe it's in the book, just without looking, but I can tell you what those fund balances are as of December 31st. I can only do it verbally. If I could flip it on the screen, I would, but I don't have the capability to do that.
And Bob, we talk about every meeting with finance and facilities, what those.
Yes, that's a good point. The Finance Facilities Committee reviews this on a continual basis as well. But the Special Ed Expendable Trust Fund is at about $641,000. Our Capital Improvement Reserve Fund is at $484,000.
On page 84.
Oh, well, there you go. It's on 84.
884?
Page 84, it's through June 30th of 2025. But I think, I don't know if everybody heard Micah. This is something that we review bi-weekly at the Finance and Facilities meeting. And you're more than welcome to send an email at any time, but we review every fund in public at those meetings.
Right. The reason I'm asking is I noticed that I was looking at the long-term bonds and notes. We don't have any. Is that an accurate statement? So when we talk about some of these needed improvements, we're talking about holding back some of the fund balances. You don't want to put it to warrant. Have we considered, I heard about a new roof costing a significant amount of money. Had you thought about maybe putting that to bond and maybe asking the folks to approve that over time?
Yeah.
Rep?
So that's a good point. Two things I'll say. The reason we do go through these trust funds on a regular basis is because it's my belief, after being on the Kingston Budget Committee and the school board budget committee and now on the board, that you have to use those funds. Or else they just, when you keep asking for money, they grow and they grow and they grow. And people eventually say, well, what are you using them for? Right. So we try to use them for the things that can't be paid through the budget. I'll give you an example. To your question about a bond, the rooftop units on this building are failing. They're 20 years old. What's that?
15 of them.
Yeah, there's 15 rooftop units. The cost that we got to replace those rooftop units, because ideally, if you're going to do them, you need a crane and you should do more than one, right? To really bundle your costs. And if you're going to change the rooftop units, you should probably put on a new roof, since the roof is 20 years old. And we just had to repair the roof of the gymnasium. We didn't choose to do the entire roof, just the failing part for now. That would be about $11 million. Okay. That's not something that we move forward with. Instead, we chose to repair, basically, what was the term you used? I apologize. Lipstick on a pig.
So you may consider a bond for something that kind of.
I think, for me, not speaking for the board, I think there's a lot of questions in the next 2 years that have to be figured out before we talk about bonds, in my opinion. Right. I think, keeping these facilities in repair, because I've lived here for 11 years now and I've watched buildings be demolished because they haven't been taken care of in this town, unfortunately. Eventually, we're going to have to do something. I just don't know if that is something that has to be fixed next year. Is the building safe? Yes. Can we fix the one rooftop unit that has bad coils? Yes. Is it expensive to do it that way? It is, but it's not $11 million.
Okay, thank you. And before I go, I know you listed two funds, the special ed at 641,000 and a capital improvement. And what was the number on that one?
If on page 84, the numbers are from last June, so they're off a little bit. Maria and I were looking at that a moment ago. Okay. Special ed 641, capital improvement 484.
Okay.
Unanticipated educational expenses 290. Facilities use is at 331. Tell me when I'm going too fast.
Yes.
Yep. I'm just being brief on how it goes.
Yeah, and it is important. I wanted to mention on the facilities use, to Mike, to your question, the rental, income from the middle school, that is what continues to replenish the facilities use revolving fund. And it truly is, I mean, it is aptly named. It is revolving. It goes up and down and up and down. Everything is coming out of that. So if there are things like rooftop units that can continually be slowly funded, that's what we've been choosing to do so far without incurring any additional cost on taxpayers. But
So is it just the four?
There's the facilities use is number 4. The unanticipated utility cost expendable trust fund is 197,000. This is all December 31 numbers. And the contingency fund that we talked about a moment ago is 670,000.
Which goes back.
Which has to be voted on in an emergency situation, which, I've 4 years, we've never done that, and that goes back to the town.
Thank you for answering my question directly and not deferring me.
No worries.
Any other questions or discussions on this article?
Hi, I'm Beverly Manning from Kingston, and I want to first thank the board for their involvement in our children's education, for those that go to the Newton and the Kingston schools. There's a number under Article 3 that says the average cost per pupil is $27,000. And I know that's not just tuition, that's facilities, that's the whole shebang. What happens when you lose the 100 students from Fremont that are being phased out? Is that ending with this year's school period? Those 100 students at the end of this year, is that the end of the tuition from Fremont?
We have a, okay, they're all looking at me. That's good. I think.
We can take it.
Yeah. We have a group of Fremont students this year. This is the last group of freshmen, I should say, and they will cycle through. Next year, we have a potential to get a couple of Fremont students, younger siblings, if you will, under a different way that we would get those kids. But over the next 4 years, we will be phasing out those Fremont students.
Okay, so my initial calculation was that you would lose $2,700,000 from the lack of those students attending, but the $27,000 is an average cost. It's for facilities, it's tuition. So as these students are no longer attending and their tuition is no longer coming into the district, what would be your plans to cut costs?
Well, we have mentioned in the budget there's positional adjustments, which is a nice way of saying we're going to be reducing some staff along the way. I don't think it's pretty obvious that's what we're talking about there. So we have factored in that along the way. It's a little difficult to completely plan for all of that right now, but our best estimate is that we're going to be, as those kids transition out of our district, we will be accounting for that.
Okay, going to page 85, where it shows the stats for the expenses in this year, and there was a line item for legal services, line item 2338, I believe, which was budgeted at $60,000 ended up costing 10 times that. That's 600 and, I don't have my glasses on, 641,000. Can you tell me what the heck was that all about?
Sure. That would be a large part of that was the investigation around the allegations of abuse at the Bakey School, which was, and I wasn't directly involved in that process, and somebody can make me wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, that we had obviously attorney's fees around that. And we did also, I think our attorneys actually hired an outside firm to do the investigation, which was quite expensive as well.
Wow. So you think 100,000 will be enough for the coming year? And let's cross our fingers that you don't have anything come up that's expensive. A couple lines under that. I don't know what student services administration is, but that was another item that was way over budget.
It's the special ed expense is what Marie is telling me, and it looks like.
But don't you already have that up at 1,200? No.
Those are salaries, right?
Is that busing?
Yeah, the 12, yep. You're looking at the 1,200 line up top, which is a teacher, which is a salary and I think benefits line. Marie's nodding her head. And then down below are the other expenses that we have in regards to special education.
Administration, support staff also.
I'll repeat that: administration, support staff. And then also we have, in particular, we're seeing an impact more of the need for us to use contracted services as opposed to in-house educators. And that has increased our expenses to a certain extent.
Yeah, you're going to notice a trend in 25. And I have to be careful with my words. And again, I'm speaking for myself, not the board. The trend in 25 was due to some occurrences that happened. And I think everybody's aware of that. There were expenses that probably won't be repeated. And I think that they will be avoided in the future.
But you're still budgeting sort of something in the middle.
That is correct.
Those two numbers.
Well,
that is correct.
I do want to say, if you look at the student services line, that's exactly the kind of unexpected special education cost that can be incurred, which we are legally bound to pay and to provide those services. And these things aren't able to really be anticipated. Somebody moves into the district, somebody, it could be a variety of things. So that budget versus actual is scary, but that's something that, unlike the situation in Bakey, which I have full confidence that something like that should never happen. These are the kinds of things that could happen. Unanticipated special education costs are very possible and likely.
There were employees that were placed on leave and those positions had to be filled. And then, some of those employees were paid while they were on leave. So those are some of the things you're seeing.
Another thing with student administration, if one of our students goes to a charter school that is outside our catchment area and they are on an IEP, we are required to pay for those contracted services. So we are paying mileage, we are paying outside agencies that we do not control. We have to contract with those agencies. So for kids going to other charter schools or outside, they're Newton Kingston children, they have an IEP, we still have to pay for their services, and that does affect as well.
Wow. I'm probably going to come off very negative, but I can't be the only one that's thinking this. You're happy with the proficiency numbers of 50%, 44%, 34%? I'm not impressed with these numbers. You say the teachers are good. How do you need to get the parents involved? I mean, how can these numbers come?
Please.
I don't have children in the district, but what can you do? These are not impressive numbers.
I would first say that teachers are in a very real sense are miracle workers, but in a very real sense, they are not. Parents have to get involved in their children's education. That's A. And for those parents out there that are, that's great. The second thing is I don't like proficiency scores. I do like proficiency scores that are on par with the state. Because remember, whatever, if we're above the state average in certain areas, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we're,
Yeah, and math,
There-
and math and reading, yeah.
right. So what, these are average, these are numbers, like 44% of the students are proficient. These are above the averages. And what I'm happy about is that we can make good inductive arguments for the fact that we've made changes that are causing these effects to happen. That new curriculum, teacher contract, it's not a coincidence that when we reinvested in math and reading, phonics reading, not some of the newfangled stuff that we went back to the reading that you and I learned, right? Sounding out words. We went back to that, ELA shoots up. We went back to making sure that new teachers are all on board with that program. Scores go up. We pass a contract, scores continue to go up. That's exciting to me because I know that the trend is going to continue if we continue to invest in our kids.
Thank you again for your involvement.
And I'd like to provide one additional comment to one of your earlier questions, and that is about the trend of the district. And I don't know if there's anybody more passionate about that trend turning around than the people on this stage. And that does not have to continue. And we are actively taking steps to turn that around. And I'm even going to put on the spot, we have a grassroots organization, the SCO, raise your hands, ladies, come on, right here. They've started a grassroots organization that is working with the board and the administration to help turn that tide. We are renting facilities, this auditorium. We rent this auditorium out for income, and there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to happen. And I don't want to promise things before they happen, but we are right at the end of hiring a superintendent, right? And so that is going to be the leader of the district with the board as the governance. And so we are right on the cusp of doing that. And so what we're not going to do is we're not going to make a boatload of changes 2 months before somebody starts at the helm of the organization. And we are putting tons and tons of effort in our mental bandwidth and emotional bandwidth into hiring the right person for this district. And we have asked the community to be involved as much as you want to be and as much as you can be, because your voice matters. Your voice matters hiring the next CEO of this district. And so for all the people that don't show up to that open session, I don't know what to tell you, right? So there's a lot of things that are about to happen and are already beginning to happen. And that's grassroots, because we believe Sanborn has a lot to offer. We have great teachers. We have incredible facilities. We have people that care. We have great students. And there's so much on the horizon. We believe that, and we hope that you believe that.
Thank you.
What is that? Tell us when that's.
Monday.
You announce when the.
Monday, the 9th at 6 PM. Yeah, we announced it at the board meeting, but we have not announced it.
And it went out an email to all the parents, and it should be posted to the Kingston and Newton pages.
Kingston emailed it out already.
Oh.
I'm on their email list.
See how quick that happens? Boom.
Newton did it as well.
Dan.
Two things. Rick, I'll go back to when you said probably not going to happen again. I think I speak for all the parents that are in here. It better not happen again.
Yeah, so
And I know you had to choose your words wisely.
well, point of clarification is the expense. No, I think I did say it. The expenditures.
Yeah.
And again, I have to be careful what I say.
And
I think sometimes expenditures go without oversight. And that's what I'm talking about not happening.
Sure. All right. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, no worries.
Appreciate it. So many of you know, I was a school board member, not here at Timberlane. I sat on the budget committee for 3 years. I'm a selectman in town. And normally in my history of this, the health insurance rate is usually a high and a low because they're too far out. So I guess my question is what was quoted? What was the high and what was the low? And then my second question is to Pam, because I hope she was paying attention, is when we were on the budget committee, we got the amount that was spent out of the health insurance from the prior year. And I think you were on the board when it was literally they spent almost half of what was in there. I don't remember if you were on the board at that time or not, but it was like we took money from that to fund a teacher. So I don't know. I'd like to know what was spent out of it last year. What was left over in the health insurance? Do you know what I'm talking about, Pam?
You're talking about a line item transfer, but I don't recall that particular.
It wasn't so much a line item transfer. We were working with the budget with Tom at the time, and there was talk of eliminating a position, and then we ended up taking it from the health insurance line, that money from the health insurance line, because it came in so much lower of how much they spent. Like they padded it at 19, well, not 19%, but it was like 15%. And then the rate came in and it was a lot less. So there was money in there for them to use to fund that teacher's position.
Yes.
Right. So I guess that's what I'm asking is what was last year's?
Yeah.
I don't have that number right here, but I understand that they do plan for, say, a large family associated with a new employee. So they have to maximize the probability that might happen and have the money available. And they don't spend it all necessarily.
Right. Absolutely. But I mean, we were talking hundreds of thousands of dollars was in that account.
We'll talk.
So do we know what that rate range was?
This year, and Marie's trying to figure out the second question, so she'll yell at me if I'm incorrect.
Okay.
But, we're for our school care, which is our teachers, our paraprofessionals, and most of our district office staff and custodians and folks like that. It's, as I understand it, locked at 19.8%. So we actually know what it's going to be. You didn't get a range. No, we didn't get I'm in the same boat. I'm used to seeing like there was a guaranteed maximum kind of thing.
Exactly.
They would give you minimum. They've given us a real rate for next year at 19.8.
So when does that start? When does that rate kick in? Is that July?
July 1st.
Okay.
So we've been at it for about an hour and a half. I'm going to say, why don't we take, if I got a couple more people, why don't we take this person here and then the lady in the back? You can go first, sure. And why don't we take a couple more comments, discussion, and then see where that leaves us and move on.
Great. My name's Sam Olson. I'm from Kingston. I wanted to address Cheryl's question. So I put together the difference between the default and the budget committee's approved number. We have for the regular programs a $1.1 million cut, which is directly impacting our classroom teachers and the inability to maintain staff, and it's going to result in larger class sizes and would result in reduced teaching assistants, paraprofessionals assigned to classrooms, and core instructional materials and supplies. And I think given that we are seeing an increase in our test scores and the momentum that we're seeing with our school in a positive direction, and the anticipated hiring of a new superintendent to move us into the next session, I move to amend the school warrant article number 3 to increase the proposed school district operating budget from $41,028,910 to $42,135,541, restoring the budget to the amount originally proposed by the superintendent. This amendment restores the budget to the superintendent originally working number, which was developed based on known costs and student needs. The reduction approved by the budget committee represents approximately a 3% cut, which limits flexibility and shifts the impact into classrooms through staffing levels, class sizes, and learning opportunities. This amendment ensures this district is funded at the full level it identified as necessary to maintain current services and support continued student progress.
Thank you. How about a second on the amendment? We have a second. So now the amendment is open for discussion, which in other words, which would be limited to the topic of the increase in the budget. This would be it has nothing to do with the default budget, but the budget would be increased from $41,028,910 to $42,135,541. So discussion on the amendment. Yes, ma'am.
Cheryl Gannon, it's not a discussion, but a point of order. Is if we want to have a written ballot, a yes or no ballot, does that have to be proposed by someone or as opposed to a voice, yes or no on the amendment?
Let me take a moment to explain the concept. Our state law provides the opportunity that before we take a vote, instead of the normal way of doing it, say by showing hands or saying yes or no, that we can vote in a secret ballot on paper. And that process is very straightforward. That's one reason everyone in the room got one of these. Procedurally, what needs to occur is before the vote, I need 5 voters that want to have such a vote. In other words, they have to be present and you have to name yourself, sign a petition in essence. I suspect there may be one of those already here. I think there's one right down there. So I'll take that. Yeah. Well, let me just take a minute to explain the concept a little bit because many of you probably have not seen one of these in a while. They were quite common before we were an SB2 town. But there are some cases where people feel they would like to vote privately, and therefore the individuals who signed this request are signing it not necessarily to indicate which way they feel about the article in any sense, but that they feel it would be appropriate for everyone to be able to vote privately. In other words, just by a yes, no ballot. So there's sort of 2 steps here. The first step is I need to establish that at least 5 of the people who signed this list are present, because in theory, they have to be here. So I'm just going to read the names off here, and I see a couple of them already. So Dr. Brown, that's our first. Mr. Doggett, present. Mark Goddard, present. Yes, sir. Mary Sear, present. Thank you. It looks like, and my apologies in the reading, it looks like Marcia Jaquette, present. Thank you. And that's 5 voters right there. And there were additional voters as well, but as soon as we get to 5. So we will conduct a vote on the amendment when we get to that point, which will probably be very soon, by a secret ballot. And let me take a moment just to explain that process. It's kind of similar to what you'd expect. We have everyone should have gotten a sheet that's a voter, of course, and you should have gotten one of these. This sheet is made so they come apart, so you can just sort of hold it and take off. And in this case, it'll be our first vote of the evening, so it will be A. So we'll all take off item A, and that will be your ballot. Now, some people probably brought a pen, some did. There's a good supply of pens right up front. And when we get ready to do this, you're welcome to grab a pen, and we'll take a moment, make sure everybody's had an opportunity to get a pen, mark their ballot. And then we'll just vote. And those people will come up one by one. I do ask that, you're going to have your ballot in hand, of course. I will show that ballot box is empty before we start. And I will actually make a quick stop at a gentleman who has difficulty walking so he can cast his ballot without difficulty. And then we will go through everyone who wants to vote. In other words, the clerk will be helping keep track of this. And when we get to the end of that, when everyone who's present has deposited their ballot, we will count them. And we're going to count them right here. It's to be a pretty straightforward process, and then we'll know the vote. Now, before we get to that, I want to sort of make sure that anyone who wants to comment on that amendment has had the opportunity to do so. So do we have anyone else who'd like to speak to the amendment? Yes, ma'am.
Mary Sear from Kingston. I do not support this amendment. I've been a resident in this district in both Newton and Kingston for, 37 years. And I'm old enough and been here long enough where I've seen teachers' contracts repeatedly get defeated. And we've seen turnover, teachers leave discouraged, because the operating budget just kept going up and up and up. So I know that when I was on the school budget committee, for a couple of stints, we were able to come in with some really modest, almost level funded budgets that were approved. And in that time, we also had teachers' contracts that were approved and paraprofessional contracts that were approved. And I know recently they've got the administrators who have also joined the Teamsters Union. And I keep going back to the tenet that education is only as good as the quality of the educators that we have here. And I think if you get greedy on the budget, you're just setting yourselves up to fail contracts for our educators, which is our biggest asset in this education business, if you will. So I am vehemently opposed to raising the budget above what has been arrived at in good faith with the budget committee and the administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions about the amendment? Yes.
Hi, Megan Doggett from Kingston. I am for this amendment for the exact reason that was just spoken to, but the reason that the amendment is for $1.1 million, it was stated, is because if it's not, then there'll be $1.1 million worth of staff that is cut, which impacts regular ed programming, which will make class sizes larger, which will change the way teachers can function, less help in their classroom. And I believe it will actually be a reason why we lose teachers. So that is why I'm in support of the amendment.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Lorraine Massioli, Kingston. Everyone keeps talking about class sizes will go up. So what is the average for the class sizes? I did not get a booklet. So if that was printed, I don't have one. I think you ran out. So if there's a number on what's the average class size, and if it's different per grade level for elementary, middle, and high school, I would appreciate that.
Want to address that?
I'm digging in my brain to come up with a way to answer that. At the elementary level, and I'm looking up top and they're going to nod their heads if I'm wrong, that I believe we're in the 16, 17, 18 range for our elementary classes, a little smaller at the lower grades, a little higher when you get up toward 4th and 5th grade. I know you're a teacher because we work together. So at the high school level, it's incredibly variable from very small special ed classes to, over 20, 25 kids in some other classes. So it really varies quite a bit to come up with a real solid, it's 10.0 or something like that. It's kind of
Well, I was going to say that's usually why it's an average, because there will be really, really small outliers.
Yeah.
As well as the full class probably of 30. So again, the average class size at the high school you think is 10?
You chose 10 as a number that I just picked out of the sky. Because
Okay.
even I don't have that answer for you.
Oh. So if I were to ask anyone here that might be a substitute for the district and they've been into substitute, would they have a better idea of the class sizes they've been substituting for in general to take a small sample size?
I guess. It depends on what they're in. If they're in a special ed support class, they're going to be fewer kids. If they're dealing with a welding class where we don't want to have 24 in there, they're going to be smaller. If they're in a phys ed class, it could be close to 30 at a time. We have a very popular cooking class. We can't put 30 kids in there. So it varies quite a bit depending on the level. And we have tried to, and they vary quite a bit also based on schedules. It's one of the problems that we're running into, or challenges we're running into, as we get smaller. We do need to offer classes based on when our students are here in the building. We have something on the order of 15 to 20% of our kids that leave us every day to go to SST to take technology education classes. That ties up 2 periods of their day. So there's a lot of challenges in answering that question from a real here's the
Sure, so
exact
then they're
number.
not at Sanborn, they're at SST, but we work with them and we're part of paying for them to go there instead of at the homeschool, so.
It just means that there's 2 periods a day where those kids can't take, say, Algebra 1.
Sure.
Probably Algebra 2 because they're juniors and seniors. And so that might mean the classes during those 2 periods of the day, our juniors in particular tend to be out the middle of the day, period 3 and 4. You probably see a little difference there and higher numbers in first, second, and fifth and sixth period. We have a tremendous number of kids that are outside the building taking extended learning opportunities and the opportunity to do internships in our community, as well as classes at Northern Essex Community College. We have kids graduating with college degrees before they get a high school degree. So it really is all kind of all over the place.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you trying to answer the question. I suppose while I'm here, I would just say that I don't know that it's fiscally responsible to go up in the budget. I'd like to reiterate what Ms. Sears said about investing in your people first. I agree that, as you said, you're looking ahead to replacing roofs. And where are we at in the current teacher contract cycle for the next time they would be up for asking for a decent wage for living? So are they in the second year of their contract? Okay, I thought so. And is it a 3-year or 5-year contract? 3. So really, to keep increasing the budget, knowing we may want to increase and invest in our people first, I'm not in support of this amendment. Thank you.
I did get handed some real numbers. Somebody dug it out. I mean, we've got this information. It's just hiding in places. So just to give you some standard core kind of classes at the high school level, our Algebra 1 classes, and I believe this was as of October 15th. Algebra 1, 22.75 students per class. Algebra 2, 15.6. Geometry, 17. 16 in our calculus classes. These are averages or rounding numbers. Band, you would see 39 students in a class in band. Although to be fair, I believe there's 2 educators in that particular class. Freshman English, 18. Junior English, 21.6. Sophomore English, 20. Biology, 17. Chemistry, 14.8. Physical science with our freshman class, 16.4. U.S. history, 18.9. Your Gov, Your Money, which is a government and economics class our sophomores take, 17.4. Intro to PE classes are about 19. Sports and games, 20. So, these are some numbers. We have some French classes that are small because we've had trouble getting the kids in those.
Right.
Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, 21. So those are just sort of.
So somewhere 16 to 22 and something maybe around 18 sounds reasonable. Thank you for that.
No worries.
Moderator, point of order. He has only listed those that have more than 15. He is not mentioning the fact that we have classes like Algebra 1 with 13, Anatomy with 7.
The average
10 with 7.
The
calculus with 10.
Jim, he did preface it by saying some of the main core classes. He didn't say he was giving a list of all classes.
Yeah, I can see what Mr. Doggett, you're pointing out here, that there's a variability in our class sizes. So for instance, in Algebra 1, I said that the class size average was 22.75. At the time of this report being printed, the class sections were 25, 25, 17, and 24. And those are, as people who have done high school scheduling over time know, that is reflective of what kids are taking at other times of the day. So it's never, you can't just cleanly chop up the 91 kids into 4 sections and say they're going to be 2 kids in one class and 23 in the other 3. It doesn't work that way. So while there are sections that have smaller numbers, there are also sections that have larger numbers. Like we have 2 sections of Algebra 1 at 25. And I think
I'm satisfied with your answer that roughly an average would be fair to say probably 16 to 18, maybe 20, but we're in a ballpark here. I'm not going to split hairs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other comments and questions on the amendment? Yes, ma'am.
Alina Habedian from Newton. I'm against this amendment that's just been proposed, and I come from a family of teachers. I believe in education. But I do think there just needs to stick with the budget that was put forth. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Oh, yes, ma'am. Can you just repeat your name for the clerk? She's got to write it.
Ali Nahabedian. Do you want me to come over and spell it? Newton.
Yes, sir.
Bob Marchand, town of Newton. I also happen to be the selectman for the town sitting chair. I would like to thank you all for your service. It's definitely not an easy job sitting up there. Some people that don't get paid all the time, the effort, the work that goes into all this. I am not for this budget. Micah, when you stated in working with the town, it's the same thing, right? We would love to have that extra cash flow when the money's needed. But as was stated at the beginning, ladies, $4 million at the end, and it was nice that you were able to use some of that and do stuff, right? Before the end, right? You use some of the money. You no longer have a payment on the school, right? What was the payment on the school?
About $2 million a year.
$2 million. Excuse me. So
It's-
there's another $2 million.
It's what funded the teacher contract
Okay, well, that's my point.
and Fremont leaving.
So all of this extra money you've had, right, but that you're not paying out, that you're able to take that, absorb that from your budget to be able to help pay for these additional costs that have come up. Your
What do you mean when you say additional costs?
health that's gone up this year,
Yeah.
right? So that's gone up.
I just want to say that's not being paid for with money that's being retained, though.
I didn't say that. I'm saying going into this next year,
Yeah.
right? Because you obviously didn't pull that out of the budget, did you? The money that, the payments you were making for the school?
That was pulled out the prior year, and the teacher contract offset that amount.
Okay. So,
Let me say this, the way that we proposed when the teacher contract was made, this 3-year contract, it was distributed over 3 years unevenly, such that the largest portion would be paid out in the same year that the bond came off of our budget, so that taxpayers wouldn't feel any incremental increases
and
based on
that's what I'm saying. So the way you've been working out your budgets, the monies that have come up where you've been able to take A, do B with it, and keep your budgets intact. There is just a need, especially for the town of Newton, that your cushion starts to be a little bit less than having that immense, because our taxpayers, as what was stated with the new adjustments on the homeowners insurance taxes,
Mhm.
it's killing the town. Our roads are dilapidating, just like you're talking about. Our buildings are falling apart. Our town hall, our library. We're just managing some of the historical things to keep intact for our town. And because everybody, and we want our kids to do well because they're our future, and that goes without saying. But there has to be an even keel between the school and its budget so that us as towns can operate and be able to give the services that are required also to keep the towns up
We
to snuff.
completely agree. The
So
one,
when we have people that put together a budget which is financially responsible, and then for somebody to come up here and then just want to increase it because they want the money, I say that's frivolous.
sure. So I just one, again, I don't want this number 4 million being thrown around. There has not been a year where there's just been $4 million sitting around at the end of a budget. So maybe if you add up the money that was returned back to taxpayers and the balances of all the trust funds and the contingency fund, you might get a number like 4 million. but that's a red herring,
Right.
right? You can't sit up here and say 4 million and then expect people not to understand where that money actually is. Half of that gets returned to taxpayers by law. A year later, another eighth of it, $600,000, gets returned to taxpayers by law. And the other fund balances that sit there have to be used for the thing that the balance is for. So
Right.
it's not like there's a slush fund just sitting here. That's A. B, I'm just saying, the budget that the budget committee approved and voted on and sent to you on this warrant is, you talk about the cushion, there's not a lot of cushion in it. I just want to let people know, in the past, there's been that, say, 3% cushion. That's not the kind of cushion that we're talking about here. So I'm not going to comment myself on whether or not I support raising it up to the previously proposed amount, because I'd like to remain impartial on this topic. I just want people to deal with the facts, which is, in the past, you've had a cushion that you wait, you see what happens, and then you're going to return to stabilize the tax rate. This is significantly less than that, as presented by the budget committee.
And that's what we need to happen.
Sure, and
And that's why I'm saying this, throwing at the other million plus.
Oh, I hear you.
Here is
It's
ludicrous.
hard times on everyone. I hear you.
Mr. Doggett, and then I'll.
Yes, Mr. Marshon, the actual number was 2,311,000. And that was retired in 2025. 2026 budget, which that number should have come down by that 2 million. There was an increase of over $1 million. So that means between 25 and 26, they spent $3.311 million minimum extra from that year to the following year.
It's like the missing dollar riddle. It doesn't make any sense.
I believe that is why they ended up with the surplus that they did. And quite frankly, I agree with you on this one. I believe that the money is just sort of almost disappearing into a black hole here, and our towns actually need a little TLC to get them straightened out. And it's just a case of affordability. But those are the actual numbers. The budget from 2025 to 2026 went up. It was approximately $1 million. Plus, they had that money.
It is accurate, but
Well, I'd just like to
there's a
address,
reason.
And budgeted
But it just-
of the
And we hold off with the board.
0.311 million.
I think there's something, because I never let the facts get in the way of a great story. It's a great saying, I love to say. Because of what I heard was,
Can we hang on? We got a point of order.
what I heard was,
Got a point of order?
okay, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
The point of order?
Well, I mean,
Good point. Thank you. Yeah,
Rick,
it's
address
fine.
Bob.
Anybody can talk, who wants to talk up here. We have as much discussion as you'd like about the topic, but it's for these people.
Okay.
So
Rick, address Bob.
So Bob, there was a statement made that the money appears to be missing and going into a black hole. That's a statement without facts. Okay. I don't know where that comes from, but I can tell you that the money that we utilized to pay the teacher's contract, the towns voted on and approved. So I don't know where that statement comes from, but I just want to make sure we clarify that.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Elizabeth Leonard from Kingston. And first of all, thank you all for being here. And thank you for the organizers of the Sanborn Community Organization. You should all come to meetings. I hope this will help clarify the previous questions. The amendment is to increase the board's budget from where you decreased it from the proposed budget. Can you please, I don't know if everyone needs to be up there for this, but is it possible to provide an itemized amount to us here as to where you decreased the budget? We are all here hopefully to support teachers, and it seems that the decrease in the budget is coming directly from our teachers.
Mr. Doggett.
In response to that, the budget committee does not have line item ability to transact. We simply have to, we set the bottom line of the budget.
So
Therefore,
where's
we-
the difference?
We cannot, it is up to the school board to determine how to spend the money. So the budget committee does not have the power to say, reduce this teacher or reduce that program. We simply say, in digesting all of the information that was given to us this year, and that's this 2 inches of paper, this is where we believe is a fair and reasonable, wise and prudent number to run the Sanborn Regional School District for the next year.
So my understanding is that the amendment is to increase student support, correct? Is that what? Understood. I just want to know where this difference is coming from and where it would be, where we would get that money from, or where that money, where the difference would be taken from. I think it seems to be like a misunderstanding for everyone here where that difference between the 41 million and the 42.4 is coming from. I just want it to be explained like we're children. So I don't know if anyone can do that.
I'll look at the school.
Maybe I'm missing something in a
yeah.
big way, but.
Yeah. So
that's the thing. They
but
don't
yeah.
have to tell us.
Hang on. Mr. Dark, do you want to continue your answer or just hand it to the school board?
I just want to, as one budget committee member, I looked at the unexpended fund balances at the end of the year. And while it's nice to be able to, the argument about evening out the tax rates, I don't need to pay taxes in December in the hopes of getting some of that money back the following December. I believe that with sharper pencils and more creative thinking, that we don't end up with that size unanticipated fund balance, because I don't need to even out the tax rate. The tax rate has been fairly constant, and I can no longer afford for this amount of money to be sitting there that comes out of my pocket and everybody else in this room's pocket to sit there, and maybe we'll use it at the end of the year, maybe we won't. I'm sorry, that just is not wise and prudent use of public funds.
I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Liz.
Liz,
Leonard.
I'm speaking to you directly now and to everybody else out here. I want to reiterate something I said earlier, and that it's important to know. It's not like we have a choice. It wouldn't be prudent to run a school district without having some unexpended fund at the end of the year to sharpen our pencils, as it were, which is a nice abstract phrase that doesn't actually mean anything. To do that would require incredible risk for our students. We would incur incredible risk for teachers, for students, and for our communities to do that. So it's not like we choose to live this way. We don't say, you know what, we could just tax you all right down to the penny, and then we won't give anything back and we won't need to. If we could live in that world, sure. We can't live in that world. The reality of having schools in communities is the reality. The primary reality that we're all faced with is that we run a school in this community. We are required by law to educate kids. And in order to do it, we can't do it with a pencil that is, quote unquote, that sharp. It's simply not feasible. Therefore, it is a necessary evil that we take some money and then we give it back. I'm sorry?
We can.
Thank you, Liz.
I'm going to ask the proponents if they'll accept a vote on the moving the question, not on a secret ballot. Because we've interjected a vote on a point of order, which, and let me back up and perhaps explain this. The point of order brought up in the audience to move the question is basically to cut off the conversation and just have the vote. And since we technically have a request for a written ballot pending, that would also apply to that vote. And I'm just looking to see if we can save a moment and perhaps not vote on a paper ballot of whether we want to keep talking or not. So I'm looking for the petitioners that are on that petition. Are we willing to accept a voice vote on cutting off discussion?
I agree.
There's one. Okay, the question before us is, we have a request that we vote on a yes/no paper ballot, which means the question for the crowd, basically the voters, is, do we want to stop talking about this topic? And because the way the law works, unless I can convince or request that the petitioners say, no, hold off, we're willing to take a voice vote on the procedural matter and then do the. Okay, fair enough. So the answer is, if there's usually no debate, there's only a vote. So if we have, we're gonna have a vote. So the question then on a move the question, a motion to move the question, that means we're gonna take a vote on whether or not we're gonna keep talking about it. So that will become vote B. So take out your slip B. This will give us a practice run. Take out your slip B.
B.
And if you vote yes on slip B, which will be our first vote, it's like a practice vote. If you vote yes on B, then we will not discuss the amendment anymore. We'll just vote on it.
Mr. Moderator, I don't think that the vote to move the question is a secret ballot.
It is. I'm saying that's why we're going to do, that's your first vote.
The vote to move the question
Is the secret ballot vote.
is a secret ballot vote for the secret ballot vote.
You bet, because we got a pending request for secret ballot.
Feels like a witch trial.
The first vote we're going to take is going to be a vote on whether we're going to cut off the discussion. And that's going to be by secret ballot, because there's a request from 5 voters to do exactly that. So.
Wait, the request is for all votes to be by secret ballot? Is that what the request?
No, it's the next vote, because it's,
I got you.
right? It's not like a future vote. It's for the next vote.
I'd like to withdraw my request to move the question so we don't have to do this.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good. Thank you. So that's wonderful. Thank you. The only thing I will suggest is, it is the sense of the room perhaps that we might want to move ahead and not talk about this much more. So I'm going to say, would anyone like to discuss this amendment further?
I would like a break.
Let's move it along.
I need a break.
Okay, fair enough. How about is everyone accepting the idea we take like a 5-10 minute break?
No, let's get this over with.
Okay. So
I want to go home.
I'm going to go.
Dr. Brown would like to speak. Mr. Edelman, take a break. We won't do anything important without you. We'll just talk and so.
Rick, I'm joining.
Back.
He usually ignores what I say anyway, so Pam Brown, Kingston. So in FY '25, we did have an unexpended balance returned to taxpayers of $2.184 million. And that was after the $500,000 payoff to the previous superintendent. So it was quite a large unexpended balance. I hope that everyone here will vote no on this proposed amendment and support the original Article 3 amount, which represents an $500,000 increase over our current year budget. It is not a cut. Slide 11 shown tonight indicated that the overall increase in our budget since 2021 was just 16.33%, staying below the increase in inflation over that time of 26.95%. But if we look at spending per pupil, that gives us a better picture of our fiscal habits, because enrollment, but if we look at spending per pupil rather than the overall change in the budget over time, it gives us a better idea of our fiscal habits. Enrollment has declined. Per pupil spending at Sanborn has increased overall by 42% between 2021 and 2026, while inflation only increased 23%. In short, per pupil spending has grown almost twice as fast as inflation. The per pupil spending has been called a red herring at recent meetings, making me want to focus on it even more. The situation that we and every other district has is that both budget and excess building capacity continue to grow as enrollment declines. Next year, our enrollment overall will decrease about 4.5%, with an 11.2% decrease in our high school enrollment. Some of our high school's class sizes this year are in a few cases very small, with 20% of them populated with 10 or fewer students, not including shop or special ed classes. Back in 2017, we had 10 sections of freshman English, and this year we have 5. Change is hard, but adjustments have been made over time, and there is again room for reasonable adjustments in staffing levels. We should increase our cooperation with other districts to consolidate and jointly share class offerings with properly filled classes to ensure staff productivity matches salary increases voters have approved over time. For those who say we can grow out of this and attract new students, Mark Menangiello, Finance Director at the NH Department of Education, flatly stated at a recent conference, the trend is not going away. Birth rates have declined, enrollment will drop. Prepare for the future. All districts are grappling with this. And about our test scores, I do not think that the additional spending we've been doing rapidly over time accounts for the increase in scores. We have adopted phonics, we have rediscovered it, and that teaching literacy to our young readers, I believe likely accounts for the increased scores. We should not have abandoned phonics earlier, but that's something that we had done. So I hope you will all vote no on this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so any other discussion on the amendment? Well, we're not going to vote on that, but those will be here forever. But are everybody comfortable with voting on the amendment? Okay, so let's do that. And I'm going to work.
Let's do it.
So for Article 3, we had 32 yes votes, 71 no votes. So the amendment fails. We also had 1 unmarked ballot for anyone who's keeping track. So
You can help yourself, yes.
of course, 32 yes votes, 71 no votes, and 1 unmarked ballot.
Move to restrict reconsideration.
Not a thing.
Not a thing.
Hey, how about we congratulate-
Let's talk about that for a minute. Yep. As a legislative body, the voters have the opportunity to, in effect, cut off any further discussion and consideration of an article by a motion to restrict reconsideration. Doesn't end the discussion necessarily, but it ends the ability to amend or reconsider the vote we just took or the topic we just voted on, namely amending the amount of Article 3. So that's a vote, again, a vote by majority. If
Before we vote on that, can I
well, first we've got a
vote?
we've got a motion pending, right? That's a point of order. It's not really a motion.
Standing here for whatever.
I know he'd like to speak on it. And I've got what looks like probably a point of order back there, ma'am. Do you have a point of order? Well, it goes on the ballot regardless of what we do.
The whole restrict reconsideration thing is for after it's been voted on the ballot and you vote.
That's incorrect. A vote on reconsideration, this is an SB2 town. So under SB2, no matter what we do, it goes on the ballot. The only question is whether we amend it prior to it going on the ballot. There's no motion to put it on the ballot because it automatically goes on the ballot. So it is possible, once we voted at any point along the way, to say we're not going to do any further reconsideration on that article. Now, I'm not suggesting whether that's a good idea or not. I'm just saying that's a choice that you as voters get to make. The other topic, which seems to be open at the moment, is we have additional discussion because that was an amendment, and perhaps there's potentially there could be other amendments, but they would be knocked out by that vote on a motion for reconsideration. So you have before us that situation. And I'm going to, again, we can take a vote right now unless somebody gets it to me quickly. Do we want to hear further discussion? In particular, do we want to hear what this gentleman has to say on the topic?
Yes. No.
Okay, why don't we do it this way? All in favor?
Yay.
Anyone opposed? Okay. The ayes carry it. Sir, go ahead and talk.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to amend the budget. To
Yeah, sir, just
36
by
million.
yourself. Please just say your name.
Sorry.
Say your name because the clerk got to keep track of it.
Tim Driscoll, Kingston. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the operating budget to $36,926,019. And that's based on declining enrollment and a lot of the other issues that have been brought up. I know there's high hopes on trying to, increase the student population, but the trends aren't going that way. And I don't see that happening, especially with, the trend of charter schools and homeschooling.
I heard.
I think we need to reduce costs. I think this is unsustainable.
Before you continue, sir, can you just repeat the amount you said?
Legal amount.
It's basically 10%, which is $36,926,019.
That within the 10.
I believe that math is correct. From the proposal.
That would be correct. We would need a second. So hearing a second, we have a second. So an amendment that opened for discussion. Yes, sir.
So say it. Is that a problem, Bob?
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
I believe that number exceeds the 10% rule because I believe that if I do the math quickly, and I don't want to get hung up in a discussion, I just want to make sure the motion is done correctly, that the way that the math is being done is Mr. Driscoll, I believe it is taking 90% of the current budget. And I haven't had a chance to whip through the math right now, but I believe it has to be 41,028,910. Take 10% of that and subtract it from that number. And I'd have to do it real fast to see what that would be.
I'm going to ask just for a quick pause.
Yep.
I'm going to look at Mr. Decker here, and I believe that statute actually is only on an increase. Correct. It's only on an increase, not on a decrease. If you want to just pull the statute quickly, if you've got it in front of you, probably find it faster than I am. Man. Just so we're all comfortable. I mean, you got an internet connection?
Yep.
Yeah, can you just pull that RSA? That's the.
Yep. Would you like me to read it?
Yep.
Yeah, it was up and down, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so it's not, it can go down. Right. Okay, so the New Hampshire state law has a 10% limit on increases, but not on decreases. So there's no question under law, they could decrease as much as they wanted to.
As much as it.
Theoretically, nobody would do it, I don't think, but
It's being done.
it's no legal bar to a 10% or whatever the actual percentage is.
So that stands.
You're fine. You're fine. The amendment has been seconded, and let's hear some discussion on the merits of it.
My name is John LeBlanc. I didn't speak on the previous amendment that raised the budget because I was not in favor of it, because we have people up here who've poured their heart and soul and time coming up with the correct number that balance the taxpayers' needs with the children's needs, with our district's needs. To arbitrarily come up here and cut 10% is devastating to this district, to all the work that these people have done, all the teachers, the administrators, everyone who puts their best foot forward to try to make this district the best that it can be for our community. I think it's absolutely crazy to even consider doing something so drastic. I am not in favor of this amendment.
Thank you for your comments, sir. I'm James. I'm new here. I just want to make sure that everybody in the room understands what is happening at the state level. We've talked a lot about declining enrollment, and we've talked a lot about per student pupil costs. I think that there are very easy ways to make generalizations, but what is happening at the State House in New Hampshire is going to drastically impact every single future projection that we have. We are fundamentally at the state level changing the way that students are able to choose which district they go to. This has been passed by the New Hampshire State Senate and will be taken up next week by the New Hampshire House. And it is my opinion, not a guarantee, that it will be passed. And what that means is that every single student in the state of New Hampshire will have the choice to go to any single district that they want. And with them, their home district will do the funding for it. So if that happens, and I think it's very likely that it will, we have a decision to make as a community. Are we going to be a community that is a district that children in our existing and surrounding towns will want to come to? And if that is the case, that is the best way to maintain the level of services for our students, staff, and administration that we need. Or are we going to become a district that our students go from? And that will increase the per student cost greater and accelerate our anticipated enrollment numbers going down. So I think it's very important that as we make decisions tonight, we understand that every single projection that we have seen on future student enrollment levels do not consider the state law, which is about to change, and that will fundamentally alter things. And we got to be very, very careful. I hope you have heard some of the hard work that the board has done for a while in positioning the Sanborn district to become a magnet to other students and other towns who want to join our district, and facilities and great teachers, and take advantage of the increased test scores on a daily basis. But we cannot take that for granted. I think it's very important that this team knows, this community knows, that the rules are changing and our future will be very different than our past. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other discussion on the amendment? We're getting late into the evening. We want to try to move along here.
Tim Driscoll, Kingston. That may be true, but that's not decided yet. We do know that the enrollment is going down and it's going to go down. What you're speaking about has not been decided. So I don't know how you can state that.
It has been decided by the New Hampshire State Senate. And
all you know,
they have voted on it.
Hang on. All you know is that enrollment has gone down. You don't know what it's going to do. None of us does. None of us knows. And it's
Lorraine Massioli, Kingston. I would like to also reiterate what I think the gentleman's trying to say. I feel the same way. Yes, it's passed the Senate, but it hasn't continued through the process. So, like you said, you only know what you know right now. And so that's great speculation. I will offer, as Dr. Dawson pointed out, we have worked together in a neighboring district at one point. I still am currently employed in the neighboring district, and I can inform the entire room that Sanborn was brought up at the deliberative session in the neighboring district last year by all of those townspeople. It was directly stated how they are putting lipstick on a pig for their budget, unfortunately, with their older buildings. And we were the envy of neighboring district because of our facilities. And they specifically said we should have done what Sanborn did when they did it, so that we could have had way better interest rates because now it's cheaper for the district to repair rather than to build new, because the building costs have skyrocketed. I do agree that costs have gone through the roof for everyone. And I do like to respect the process. I have faith in the process. It's probably why I haven't chosen to participate in deliberative sessions in my own hometown, because I trust the process. However, I do have to say that there are several people here that I know that couldn't be here tonight, some of which are very near and dear to my heart, and they are the elderly and currently suffering with the flu as well. And the fixed income coupled with we want to provide for our young children, but as a community, we also want to provide to the elderly and people like me that are stuck in the middle, caring for both ends. And so when I see our town trying to be unsure whether they should ask for 2 police officers, and they haven't even kept up with asking for new police officers in over 20 years in our own town, they shouldn't have to hesitate for our safety. God forbid there was anything that happened in any school district, specifically talking about ours. I would hate to have our overworked and not enough personnel in Kingston responding to a school if there were an emergency, that we shouldn't have to hesitate to want to fund for police officers at a bare minimum. Everyone's being pushed and shoved with budgets. This is not my favorite format for any type of government that seems healthy, where you pit neighbor against neighbor, and those that are trying to help our district and help our children at odds. The almighty buck is what's speaking. People are hurting. And I think that people need to really reconsider how much we're asking people to go up, knowing for facts that our enrollment is going down. However, if speculation, as you say, is that it's possible that every child in New Hampshire will have the unbelievable choice to choose to go to any neighboring district, I'm happy to say we look far better than our neighboring district. And I'm proud of that as a person that lives here in Kingston. At the same time, I also see potential for future chaos on how well that's going to be managed. So to the point of the new CEO of Sanborn, big deal here on managing chaos. But we also have opportunities for kids to choose homeschooling, VLACs, ELOs. I'm going to get my credit any which way but loose is what it feels like now at the State House as well. And those laws have already passed. And so as much as this, it feels a bit scare tactic, like we're going to have any kid could come now to this district and the numbers could go up. What we know for a fact is the enrollment is going down. This is a huge sting for 10%. But what I do see is there's got to be balance. And so I think if I point these things out for people to consider before it's time to vote, that to me matters, that we're being mindful, and I wanted people to be aware of what is happening around us because we do look quite attractive. I lost several colleagues from the neighboring district to this one because we did do good and we did lure wonderful talent for our district, where we had been the district luring, unfortunately, from you for years. So needless to say, I thought I'd offer these things for us to think about before people vote.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments? Yes. And then
Thank you.
try to keep moving along. Perhaps we can focus in on 1 or 2 more comments and then get to the vote.
Thank you very much for your comments. And my intent there was specific to this amendment, where I believe if this amendment passes, we no longer have any opportunity to be a district that others envy.
So I'm Crystal Brown from Newton. And on the whole, being attractive as a district, I know not too long ago, because I've only been here 10 years, so it can't be too long if I'm aware of it. We weren't the enviable district. We were, I forget what school it was, and no need to mention other schools, but they were the Sanborn of the some direction on the compass, because our staff would come here young, not get paid so well, get some really great training. We were really great at growing our staff, but then they'd pop out to get a better salary. And that's not the conversation anymore. And I know all these seats up here worked very hard to change that. That is a huge, awesome change that I'm so thankful for. Let's not kill it now. And this amendment will do just that.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, make a quick comment.
Yes.
So I just I value everything that was stated, and we are always working to strike that balance because we have family, friends, neighbors, colleagues that are in those same positions. Some are raising young kids, and some are elderly trying to make it paycheck to paycheck. And we are constantly working through all of that very nuanced thought process. And I'll leave you with one quick analogy. James said it pretty well, but I'm just going to put a quick analogy to it. When you're about ready to sell your house, do you stop making upgrades to your house because you're about to leave? Or do you put new paint, a new roof, and try to make it attractive? That's where we are. We're either going to become more attractive and bring more students, or we're not.
Ms. Gannon and the gentleman that.
Cheryl Gannon from Kingston. I cannot support this amendment. I think it is too drastic. I understand the desire to try and keep costs down. I think this is a modest increase. I think we have a great opportunity ahead of us to hire a new superintendent. And one of the things that should be highest on our priority that we communicate as a community to the candidates for the new superintendent is that we need to come up with some very feasible and options for what we are going to do about declining enrollment. But just slash and burn is not going to work. Look at our federal government.
Yes, sir.
Robert Jeffroy. I live in Kingston. I'm just wondering, like, if you had 200 more kids, right? Would that bring the cost down?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
It would.
Yes.
it's just a number. It's just a,
Well, it's not just a number. I mean, then you're gonna
But-
have to hire more teachers.
No.
no, not necessarily.
No?
Nope.
So you're saying if you had 200 more kids, then the cost per student
And
would go down and
that's right.
taxes wouldn't go up as high.
The cost per student is a number that you can generate when you do some division. It means very little other than the fact that some people have left over the years, and that's why that number is going up. But as we noted before, average of 16 to 18 to 20 classes, you could spread 200 kids across 12 grades pretty easily and not have to hire a single person.
Thank you, sir.
Just one more thing on the subject of this, which we all know is speculation. We all know about the fact that Fremont is leaving, is in the process. I worked on that negotiation closely with their board and many members of this board for a period of at least a year. And it was my whole life on the school board for a year. And I can tell you from many, many conversations with friends, families, many people from Fremont, many of the people had no idea what their school board was doing or negotiating when they left Sanborn. They had no idea and they're upset about it, and there's nothing they can do about it. And if they have the opportunity to come back to a school where their kids will make sports teams instead of being at Pinkerton, if they have an opportunity to come back to a school where their older siblings have come, those students want to be here. A lot of them don't want to go to Pinkerton. A few people on their school board wanted their kids to go to Pinkerton, and that's how this whole thing started. So the opportunities aren't just there for people that we don't know. There are opportunities there for people that we do.
Thank you. Any other comments on the? Seeing there are none. All in favor of the amendment?
No ballot.
I don't have a secret ballot request.
Oh, No ballot.
The question. Wait, what are we asking?
Yeah,
Question.
I don't have a secret ballot request for this vote. So we're going to vote by voice unless, one arrives in the next like 30 seconds. Yes. I'll take 5 written right now. I mean, if somebody wants to do that, just,
I think I gave you the copy.
all you gotta do is hand me the paper.
We gotta go through that again? What's wrong with you people?
Really need a secret vote for this shit? This is getting
I'm
annoying.
very afraid to just vote.
Right, but you gotta do it every time.
Because when they
Okay,
hurt kids,
so
they want to do it. in
I do
secret.
have a secret ballot request. So we're gonna check that we got the 5 people that are listed there. Ms. Seer.
Just a point of order. At the Town of Kingston deliberative session this week, on Saturday, there were requests for 2 secret ballots, one for each of 2 articles. And it came up in question about, oh, well, do we need to do the secret ballot to restrict reconsideration? And it was at that meeting, it was the moderator's call interpretation. And at one point, because I was the petitioner for the secret ballot, I went up to clarify that it was my intent that the secret ballot be applied to all amendments for the article in question. And that was okay. That was satisfactory for the moderator at that time. Not sure if the way this one was written applied only to the first and, a single amendment, or if it applied to any amendments on the article. I haven't.
Let me just short circuit that. The state law requires it per vote, as I interpret the law. As I said to the petitioners, I'll take the same petition. It's just I need the petition on a single vote. I'm not asking them to fill the form out or anything else. So that's why I said, just give me the petition, which they did. So if they, to the extent the petitioners want to have a secret ballot, then they can do so. And when they don't want to, then they don't have to. In other words, it's undesirable to try to bind ourselves into the future and say, okay, we're going to use secret ballots for the rest of the night because we're going to be here a long time. So that's all that I'm saying is that if you want, give me the form. I got it again. And then we will, assuming the 5 people are here, and I think they are, Ms. Brown, Mr. Doggett, Mr. Goddard. Okay, so we don't have Mr. Goddard. Ms. Seer, got you. And this one's going to be tough for me to read. It looks like Mabel Joykin? Martha, I'm sorry, the writing's good. Okay, you're here. Thank you. And then Paul St. Ange, you're here. Yes, sir. And that gets us 5. So we will vote ballot B. I think you know the drill at this point.
I think that's open your
Grab your ballot.
Cowards.
We are voting on the proposed amendment, which would change the budget amount in Article 3 from the originally proposed amount to an amount of $36,926,019.
That guy's.
Yes. Mr. Moderator, we're using B.
Okay, so with respect to proposed amendment, which would lower the operating budget to $36,926,019. There were 26 yes votes and 68 no votes, so the amendment fails. There was also one. So that leaves us no amendments, that article as it is.
I'd like to make another amendment. Oh, come on. No.
Yeah, let's
What's the
try to do the
process?
following. Let me just try to get an understanding for a minute. If we're trying to hone in on an amount, it might be better to,
Show up to the
I don't know how many
meetings.
times we want to do that, right? some number, but let's hear perhaps from other people that might want to talk about that, or if you've got a new amendment, he's got a new amendment.
I've got a new amendment.
There, you've got the floor. So what's the amendment?
Okay, I'd like to make an amendment to the operating budget of 38,156,887. That's a 7% decrease.
Are we
And I'm sorry,
splitting
sir.
hairs here?
Can you say it again? Just the number.
Yeah, you can.
It's 38 million. Oh, he's got it on paper. I'll answer it in a second.
Oh, it's not for you, though.
Thank you.
War of attrition.
Okay, so the proposed amendment would be to change the amount of the budget on Article 3 from 41,028,910 to 38,156,887. Do we have a second? There is a second. So as the proponent, maybe a quick 1-minute summary of why.
Same reasons I stated before.
Seconds over there. Okay.
Yeah, just the, decreased enrollment. And I think, all the other issues we've already talked about. I just don't, I think it's out of control. I think the budget is out of control.
Could you articulate why it's out of control?
Yeah.
And specifically?
Ask questions.
Yeah, let's not do that.
And yet I did.
We don't want to have a back and forth.
No, if you're going to keep proposing numbers, maybe show up to the meetings.
Well, again, I'm going to cut off comments from.
Some of us have a life and want to do something outside of here. Some of us have to work in the morning. We're not going to split hairs over $1 million here, $1 million there. If you want to propose a number, show up to the damn meetings, not to this shit where everybody else is here.
Sir.
Hey, this whole place is friggin' out of order.
Sounds
dude.
like a personal attack to me.
You need to be quiet.
Okay, let's get the show on the road here.
Well, be quiet. Don't
I
talk
would
out
if
of
we
turn.
weren't here for
No
4
outbursts.
fucking hours.
Sir, quiet. Sir, do you have any further comments?
Say again?
Any further comments?
No,
on the
that's it.
amendment? Gentleman behind you?
My name is Brooks Clark. I'm a resident and taxpayer of Kingston. I also serve on the budget committee for Sanborn. I want to remind everybody here in the audience that there was a split of 4-3 on the vote for the proposed budget. The reason why there's a split on a 4-3 vote for the budget was because we were all on the cusp of that figure. So that tells you that we were very responsible and thought deeply about where this budget needs to be. To have huge cuts or increases to that budget is disrespectful to the board in the work that they have done. Just want to remind you of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other discussion regarding the proposed amendment? Quickly.
Sure. The first amendment he made was a 10% drop was over 4 million. It was 4.1 million. He's now proposing a 7% drop in the proposed budget, which is $2,872,024 for people to see the perspective of his choice to probably meet middle ground of how people are feeling with a bit of everyone's feeling the sting, I think, in their budgets. Again, I had alluded to that earlier, talking about my elderly people in our town, as well as my in-laws. And so I can see why he is forthcoming and trying to find a compromise. At the same time, I feel for the people up front that feel disrespected, but I think people are hurting, and that's where this is the forum for people to express that. Thank you.
Thank you.
On the fact of the number that you said, I'm sorry, what was the number? 2-point-some million? 2.8 million. Yeah. So just to put that in perspective, Bob, do you want to speak on that? Because of the way that I have it, and I could be wrong, but I think it's probably 30 positions and closing a school. Is that correct? Probably.
I was just trying to work out the sort of rough figures in my head and looking at the way we've done other adjustments to the budget.
You think we shouldn't have discussion about our budget?
I want to hear what they have to say.
I do too.
Yeah, I think it's fine for us to hear what they have to say, but,
Yeah, it's a pretty drastic number.
and people can form their own
What did she say? I didn't hear that.
conclusions. People, who are voters, can form their own conclusions based on what the other say. So let's hear what they have to say.
I believe if that number stuck, we would be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 professional staff. And I don't know what the current number is for the professional staff. I think that's a significant number. Co-curricular user fees for athletics, drama, middle school, student council, and so forth. We'd have to significantly delay maintenance on our facilities that we want to do. And we would have to strongly consider, if not absolutely, close the Bakey School.
And cost per student would probably stay the same.
Correct.
Okay, other comments, discussion, vote.
Graham Peller in Kingston. I obviously, like everybody echoed here, I appreciate all the work that's been done to get to this budget. I would hope those are just examples of what could happen with a cut in $2 million, because I would hope that everybody at that table, if this article or this amendment did pass, would not just fly off the cuff and say we're closing the school. I really hope that you guys would take that and figure out where else to cut that wouldn't hurt so much. Just like a town, I'm the fire chief in Kingston. So just like a town, the select board has the right to spend that money after the budget is passed, whatever the number is, has that right to do whatever they want with it. So the school board and the superintendent has that right as well. But I hope, again, those are just examples of adding up the $2 million. Thank you.
Personnel.
Yeah, we just confirmed that about 80% of our budget is salary, so it's very hard to cut in other areas. Obviously, we have special ed costs that we have to pay for. And, you know, we still have other fixed costs that we're required to have. And I think looking at what these cuts would be based on a number that was, when I have 2 minutes to think about it, that's the first place that I go, because of the big, you're looking at big chunks coming off. And that's an additional $2.8 million on top of what we've already pulled back off of the default already, which is about 1.4 million.
Hi, Sam Olson again from Kingston. Just to echo what Bob just said, we have fixed costs and flexible costs. So the fixed costs are insurance, our special education costs, the utilities, transportation, all of those costs are not, you're seeing those costs go up at home, and so is the school. Those are the costs that are not going to change. The insurance costs, the $600,000 extra dollars that went into the teacher's insurance this year, that is now like part of the new number that we're looking at. The flexible costs, the costs that are going to be adjusted with this huge cut, are going to be teachers, as Dr. Dawson outlined, 30 positions, drastically reducing and taking opportunities away from our students, closing schools, losing so many opportunities, and just a slap in the face to our students who are working so hard to raise their test scores, to raise their grades, to work as hard as they possibly can. And we're going to slash the budget just because the town has raised their Kingston town has raised their budget 131% over the last 6 years. The school has raised their budget 18% in those same years. The exceptions that we gave to the seniors and disabled in Kingston to give them a tax break equaled $10.2 million in tax exceptions last year. That is the type of town that we should be, the type of town that supports our elderly, the disabled, and our students. I absolutely just do not support this. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Elizabeth Beebe from Kingston. I don't really know what I'm going to say right now. I'm very flustered. We've all been here for 3 hours. The number of hours that you have all put in on this budget, not even to mention the budget committee, but all the professionals, the teachers, and everyone who was consulted to create the numbers to even go before the budget committee.
I have far more trust in their abilities to figure out what we need to run a school than 100 people who have shown up here tonight.
Who haven't shown up at all.
I have worked in this district for 15 years, 10 as a substitute. Before that, I volunteered for 10 years with plenty of hours unpaid because I value this school district so much. I now have subbed. I am now a paraeducator for the last 5 years in the high school, and I have not seen any of these faces in these walls except for tonight. I am frustrated by the randomness of the figures that are being thrown out after all the time and effort you have all put in. I have seen the budget meetings and the contention of trying to match down to the dollar, the penny, the $100, the $1 million. I know that there have been many countless conversations on your board, and I appreciate all of them because you've been transparent and we've been able to view them all along the process. I don't support this amendment because I think it's too random. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Guy?
Can we move the question?
We can. I would suggest that we're not going to take a vote on that because I have a pending vote, paper vote. So let's just do the vote and be done with it. This vote. So we will now be using paper ballot C, like Charlie. Grab your paper ballot C. If you are in favor of amending the budget, cutting the budget to 38,156,887, vote yes. Not vote no. So the results of our secret ballot vote on the amendment to amend the operating budget down 38 million, 156,887, 24 yes votes, 65 no's. The motion fails. The amendment fails. So I think we've had quite a bit of discussion. I'm going to entertain a motion from the floor, perhaps.
I'm going to motion to place Article 3 on the ballot as written.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. I think we've had a lot of discussion and amendments. We probably can just take that vote and be done with it.
No, secret ballot, please.
Shut up, Bob.
Be careful what you ask for. Okay. Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes carry. Okay. So I think it's going to be likely there'll be other motions.
Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to not to be able to reconsider the vote.
Restrict reconsideration.
Thank you.
I will
Got it.
second it.
Second? Seconded? Okay, so just as a quick introduction, anybody's not familiar with this, we're simply making the decision that we're done with Article 3. We're not going to come back to it later. We're not going to, think about it anymore. We're done.
Mr. Moderator.
All in favor?
Aye. Yeah.
Opposed?
Yeah.
The ayes carry. So we're done with Article 3.
Yeah. Can I say one thing real quick? Because it seems like people are leaving. And for the people that came tonight, thank you for coming. There is a lot of work to be done. And there are probably a lot of people in this room with great ideas, and we need them. And we need to collaborate. So, we'd like to see more of you more often, and we will welcome that. So thank you for coming.
Okay, on to Article 4. Shall the Sanborn Regional School District approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement for administrators reached between the school board and the Teamsters Local 633, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior fiscal year. And as a table of year and estimated increases for the year 2026, 2027, the estimated increase is $48,010. For the year 2027, 2028, The estimated increase is $61,645. For the year 2028, 2029, the estimated increase is $67,634. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $48,010 for the 2026-2027, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those of the appropriation at the current staffing levels. It was recommended by the Budget Committee in favor 6, opposed 0. Recommended by the Sanborn Regional School Board in favor 6, opposed 0. Has an estimated tax impact for the residents of Kingston of 2 cents per thousand of assessed value. For Newton, also 2 cents per thousand of assessed value. Who on the board would like to give us a brief synopsis or statement regarding that?
I believe I've been elected. So this represents a group of our administrators. They are in the Teamsters Union. It's just what that worked for them to do. So that seems a little unusual, but it is what it is. There's a 2.25% raise in the first year, a 2.75% raise in the second year, and a 2.75% raise in the third year. There's also some longevity language in there. So as people reach their 5th, 10th, 15th year and so forth in district, they receive a longevity bonus as well.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or discussion regarding this article? Ms. Gannon.
Cheryl Gannon, Kingston. What positions are considered administrators? Is it just the principals and vice principals, or are there other positions included?
Principals, assistant principals, and directors.
Any other questions or discussion regarding this article? Seeing there is none, Article 4 will be placed on the ballot as presented. Article 5.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to restrict reconsideration.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We will not go back to Article 4, which is good. Okay, Article 5, titled Special Meeting Administrators Collective Bargaining Agreement. Shall the Sanborn Regional School District, if Article, and I'm going to point out it meant to say 4 because it's referring back to the preceding article. There's a typo. So I'm going to read the typo, and then the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take my prerogative as a moderator and propose the typo fix. But I'm going to read it incorrectly because that's what's printed. So Article 6, which should be 4, is defeated. Authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 6, which is what written, but it should say 4, cost items only. Recommended by the Sanborn Regional School Board in favor of 6 and opposed 0. And this is a case where it's a typo. They meant to refer to the preceding article, not the article after it, which has nothing to do with it, with a collective bargaining agreement. So unless there's any opposition, I will take the assent of the voters to direct the board to simply fix the typo. So on the actual article itself, with the typo fixed, does anyone have any comments? Any comments from the voters? Seeing none, Article 5 will be put on the ballot with the typographical correction. Article 6, the Capital Reserve Fund, Capital Improvement and Maintenance. Shall the Sanborn Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate up to $265,549 to be placed in the Capital Improvement and Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund previously established? This sum would come from June 30th fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, instead of returning the money to the community to offset taxes. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Recommended by the Budget Committee in favor 5, opposed 1. Recommended by the Sanborn Regional School Board in favor 6, opposed 0. The estimated tax input for Kingston is $0 per thousand. The estimated for Newton similarly is $0 per thousand. Is there anyone who'd like to say a few brief words on that?
Yeah, briefly, Article 6 and coming up Article 7, there was some suggested amounts that were provided to the board to discuss. These are the only two funds that we're asking funding for out of all the funds that we have that could use funds. The suggested amounts that were discussed between the budget committee and ultimately presented to the board, we voted to cut those in half. So we would be providing more funds back to both towns. So these were initially double the amounts, and we decided to cut them in half. So that's it.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion regarding Article 6? Seeing there is none, Article 6 will go on the ballot as presented.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I would like to restrict reconsideration.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes carry, so we are not going to go back. We will not reconsider Article 6. Article 7, our final article on the ballot. Shall the Sanborn Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate up to $108,712 to be placed in the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund previously established? This sum would come from June 30th fund ballots available for transfer on July 1st, instead of returning the money to the community to offset taxes. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Recommended by the Budget Committee, in favor 6, opposed 0. Recommended by the Sanborn Regional School Board, in favor 6, opposed 0. The estimated tax impact for both Kingston and Newton is 0. Would someone like to say a few brief words about that?
No. Ditto.
Fair enough. Any other discussion, questions, amendment? Mr. Doggett.
I brought this up at the public hearing, and I would like to encourage this body to switch the numbers of Article 6 and 7. A peculiarity of the Department of Revenue Administration rules is that warrant articles from
Unexpended.
Thank you. For unexpended from the unexpended fund balance can only be paid in the order that they appear on the ballot. And to me, the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund is much more important than the Capital Improvement Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund. So I would like to see the special education get the first crack at any money that's left over, and capital improvement gets whatever's left.
Clarification.
Do we have a second on that for discussion?
Actually, point of order, does that need to be a motion?
Okay, probably not.
Okay.
But I was going to just, for simple purposes.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay.
And
Thank
let me just try to explain for a second, because I understand it, but I want to make sure everyone else does. So if you'll indulge me for a second, I'm just going to try to explain what the purpose is. The DRA, which Mr. Doggett referred to, is the Department of Revenue Administration, a state organization which deals with budgets and finances and that kind of stuff. And they have certain rules. And apparently, I'm not stating this independent of what Mr. Doggett said, but based on their rules, if these transfers were to happen from the available fund balance at the end of the year, and the fund balance wasn't enough for all of them for some reason, right? That is, the available funds were insufficient to cover both of these, they get funded in order. So if hypothetically there was only, a little more than, say there's not enough really to fund, say there's only $500,000. In that case, say there's only $200,000. Article 6 would get funded with the $200,000, but Article 7 would get nothing because of the rule from DRA. And Mr. Doggett was pointing out that would it be in the interest, or would it be a good idea to change the order that they appear on the ballot so that the DRA, when they do their math, says, if there's only a little bit of money, it would go first to the Special Education Fund as opposed to the Capital Reserve Fund. So I'm not suggesting one way or another whether one would want to do that, but that's the intent, right? It's just, they'll both be on the ballot, but it just, their numbering on the ballot would be, reversed, right? The Special Educational Expendable Trust Fund would be the second to the last one, and the last one. Does that make sense? Okay, so discussion on the proposed change.
Sure. How much money is in the Special Education Trust Fund?
Earlier.
Be ready for the next one too.
Bring both of them up to
Look at page 85.
Yep, I'll repeat what Marie said. This will bring both funds in Article 6 and 7 to $750,000.
When's the last time you went into the Special Education Trust Fund?
Sorry, 84.
What? Never? Okay. What about the Capital Reserve Fund for the buildings that need all sorts of repairs right now? And I'm not saying that like I'm worried, but the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund, you guys haven't touched it since it's been established. I still think the more important thing, I'm not saying anything's not important, the more likable, something that's more likely to happen is something to the buildings than you guys blowing through $1 million in your Special Education Trust Fund in 1 year.
Yeah.
So I would much rather the money go into the Capital Reserve Fund to do repairs to the buildings than to the Special Education Fund that it's just going to sit there.
Yeah, I
Because you're
don't,
actively using that money. Am I right?
yeah, and I wouldn't disagree. I mean, there's been some discussion since I've been on the board. And again, I'm speaking for myself, not the board, that, this special education trust fund should be $1 million, right?
That's what I was told when I was on the budget committee.
Yeah, so you heard similar things,
Yep.
right? And to your point, since I've been on the board, we have not touched it, but we have touched the capital reserve fund, and we have a very aging infrastructure. So I would concur with what you're saying.
Okay.
Mr. Doggett, I think you wanted to.
According to the book, special ed has a reserve amount of 378,000, whereas capital improvements has 474,000.
The book is dated from June.
We have 641,000 in the special.
I'm going by what the school board printed in the book.
Yeah, that's an annual report as of.
Excuse me, may I finish? Sure. Plus, there's also the facilities use money, which is 217. There's 284,000 in unanticipated. And
yeah,
quite honestly, there's a lot for either side. I would rather see any extra money that I would normally be getting back first going to special education.
Okay, so I think the question before the voters is simply, do you want to renumber? In essence, do we want to switch the position on the warrant, which you have the power to do? And
Did she already restrict reconsideration on the last one?
reconsideration doesn't affect its position on the ballot, right? We're not editing it in any way. It's the question in which it's order in the ballot, and it's only for an implication on the voters, right? They vote on both of them. The only question is whether there's a sort of tertiary issue with the DRA, and I don't know if there's anyone here who has more insight on the DRA.
Well, we also just, are we sure?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Can we defer to asking the two people that are in charge of the departments that those funds will ultimately support if there are issues? Can we double check with them and see if they feel that? So Sunny, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel?
Yeah,
You feel
we
that?
already voted
Dan,
to take this one.
I know there's.
Dan would like you to speak.
And Dan, you as well. So we can make an educated decision here.
Yeah.
And
Dan-
having the two people that are in charge of those departments is.
Dan, if you could, since you're closer, and save some time. Yeah, Sonny, take your time. If you could.
Kingston.
Yeah, if you could maybe speak to, the capital reserve fund and the aging infrastructure. And why don't you talk a little bit briefly about the whiteboard that you shared with me when I was in the SAU office?
Well, I was going to do that. So
Thanks.
We have an active whiteboard in our office of all the projects, maintenance projects that need to be completed. I have provided a list to the school board members as far as the dollar amounts, approximate and actual dollar amounts. I think this list probably has no fewer than 30 items on there that need to be completed. It's not a wish list by any means. It's things that we need to do to keep this school running. They're not capital improvements. They're actually maintenance items that we have to spend money on. Some of them are a couple $1,000 and some of them are a couple $1 million. So any little bit of money that, you know, even if it's a couple $100,000, it can pay for quite a few smaller projects that are on my list that we need to improve the facilities.
Dan, excuse
Our
me.
newest building is 20 years old within the school district.
This is the list, right?
That is the list.
It's
But if I
three
can-
pages.
I can just jump in to expedite the discussion. The question is not the amount or the spending of it. The only question is, if in some hypothetical case, we're short at the end of the year, right, in terms of available funds, is it more important to put the 200 and something thousand into the capital reserve fund or the special education, you know, 100,000 into the special education fund?
Well, obviously,
That's the only
my answer is going to be I want it in the capital improvement fund. And
Thank you,
I'm
Dan.
sure it's going to be completely opposite. So
Thank you, Dan.
there we are.
We wait for Sunny. I just want to mention this. These are trust funds that would be separate from the budget, right? Special education is already if you're going to put special education and building maintenance costs or funds together side by side within the budget, special education is more well-funded than the buildings are as budget line items. Okay? So that's a consideration as well, that you're looking at two equal trust funds balances, more or less, but there's also money within the budget for special education, good amounts for special education within the budget, whereas for the buildings, not so much. We did increase it by 20%, but it's still probably not where it should be. So there's that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
I would say I'd have to agree with that. Special education does have a fairly healthy budget in terms of what we know is coming at us. Obviously, I don't know when a child's going to move in that potentially has an out-of-district placement. I obviously don't also know if a child's going to go to a charter school. That's going to cost us a good amount of money because, as you know, right now, even without the unknown of what's happening with open enrollment around the state and how that may impact special ed costs, there is the charter school factor. There's the contractor factors that come into play there. But in terms of immediate need, I would probably defer to building currently.
Thanks, Sonny.
Yep.
Okay, so the question before the voters is, do you want to switch the order of those articles or put them with the capital reserve fund first and the special education as it is? So all in favor of switching the order?
He's saying switching.
We'll be switching the order. That's the effect. Right? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, so they're going to stay in the same order they are.
Okay.
Do we have any other motions?
My microphone on. Mr. Moderator, I would like to make a motion to restrict reconsideration.
Second.
That's fine. We don't really need to because we're about to recess our meeting until election day, but fine. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that effectively means we're done because there's nothing to work on. I want to thank everyone for coming out, participating. Joining in the process. Thank you very much.